the, sorry. Okay. Much bigger room. Echoing in here. I'll get used to it. Let's call the meeting to order, please. The board met in closed session this evening from 5 to 7. During closed session, we did the annual review of proposed layoffs. And under personnel matters, the governing board voted 4-0 to lay off 5 permanent certificated employees for the 2021 school year, equating to a full-time equivalent of 5.0. Under personnel matters, the governing board voted 4-0 to lay off 5 probationary 2 certificated employees for the 2020-21 school year, equating to a full-time equivalent of 4.6. 13 probationary 1 certificated employees for the 2021 school year, equating to a full-time equivalent of 11.8. 1 probationary 0 certificated employee for the 2021 school year, equating to a full-time equivalent of 0.8. 1 certificated management employee for the 2021 school year, equating to a full-time equivalent of 1.0. Under personnel matters, the governing board voted 4-0 to release 23 temporary certificated employees for the 2021 school year, equating to a full-time equivalent of 6.03. Is there another page? Is that it? Okay, so that was closed session. Is Lauren here? Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So on our agenda, do I have a motion to remove an item?
Can you speak into the mic?
Yeah, sorry, it's a very soft voice, it's a very big room. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda and take off,
I'm looking at 13A.
action item 13A.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Oh, second was Mary Beth. Was there a no? I think it's 4-0. Okay. So now is the time we come for public comments. Thank you all for coming out tonight. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Special recognitions. Looking for my. So we had the governing board recognizes the 2020 CUNY Science Fair finalists.
Good evening, President Hines, Superintendent McFetrich, board members. My name is James Barnes. I'm the principal of CUNY, and tonight we have a very special recognition for our winners of the science fair. Fantastic bunch of students, fantastic projects. So I'm going to read their names, and if they would come up here and receive their certificates, and everybody stand out here until we're done. Okay, so I'll start off here with our life science category. I'd like to invite up Paula Rico for the effect of light spectrum on plant development. And then Jesse Alves for Got Weeds. I'd like to call up James Travis in the Life Science 2 category for Feel the Burn. And James Travis is also the recipient of the Jerry Schreiner Award as well. Well done there. Josie Nelson, come on down for Distraction with Dogs. In the behavioral science category, we have Marco Malossi for Print versus Screen. In the earth science ecology category, we have Angel Tonetti for The Future of Food. Angel is also the grand prize winner of the entire fair, so well done. Roberta Leone for Angles of Solar Panels. Lily Conahan for Sand Stories. Paloma Farnworth, California Wildfires. Patrick Rogerson for Water for All. I just also want to mention that Roberto also won the Gil Ellis Award for the Angles of Solar Panels, and Lily Conahan won the Geology Award for Sand Stories as well. In the category of Physical Science 1, we have Zoe Chait for Fun with Fins. Ellie Patchett, It's Just Rocket Science. In Physical Science 2, we have Miles Eoff for Fire Resistant Home. And Kai Bliss for Water Rotter. And finally, the Engineering Award for the Science Fair went to Akiko Tanaka for Breakwater Structures. So congratulations to all of these amazing winners. Give them a big hand. Okay, yep, photo time. All right. Last call.
It's middle school, it should be awkward.
That's right. All right, well done, everybody. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes, and thank you to the teachers. And we did miss one student because they're not here. Is that correct? Two students not here. Okay, thank you so much.
Again, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Now is the time for our public comment section. Individuals will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes, and the board at this time can't reply to your comments. but we thank you and we really appreciate everyone being here. So the first so we can kind of queue up and you know who's here, we have Angie Work and Maria Skinner first, and then Joaquin Jimenez to follow. Please come to the podium.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Angie Wirt. I'm a fifth grade teacher at Hatch Elementary.
And good evening. My name is Maria Skinner, and I'm a second grade teacher at Hatch Elementary, and I also teach Spanish at La Costa Night School.
The teachers at Hatch Elementary would like to share with the board and tonight's attendees our recent letter to the editor of the Half Moon Bay Review.
Los maestros de la Escuela Hatch desean compartir con la mesa directiva y con todas las personas que asisten esta noche nuestra carta reciente que le enviamos al director del periódico Half Moon Bay Review.
Dear editor, on behalf of the teachers, we would like to respond to the article, Proposed Busing Cut for Low-Income Elementary Students Sparks Debate, February 5th, 2020.
Estimado director, a nombre de los maestros de la Escuela Primaria Hatch, quisiera responderle al artículo Recorte de transporte para los alumnos de primaria de bajos recursos causa un debate, 5 de febrero 2020.
Hatch teachers take a strong stance in stating we welcome students of all races, backgrounds, and home languages. We are passionate about social justice. We are and have always been a diverse staff serving a diverse population.
Los maestros de Hatch enfáticamente adoptamos la postura firme de declarar que les damos la bienvenida a los estudiantes de toda raza, de toda etnicidad y de toda lengua materna. Somos apasionados por la justicia social. Somos, y siempre hemos sido, un personal de orígenes diversos, sirviendo a una población diversa.
Hatch teachers' advocacy for student equity is intended to level the playing field for all. This includes nutrition support, transportation, and educational resources.
La abogacía de los maestros de Hatch por la igualdad entre los estudiantes tiene la intención de crear condiciones equitativas para todos. Esto incluye apoyar la alimentación, el transporte y los recursos educativos estudiantiles.
We work with our whole hearts to give the best education we can to all of our students.
Nosotros trabajamos con todo corazón para brindarles la mejor enseñanza a todos nuestros estudiantes.
We will continue to advocate for resources to promote equity for all co-side students. Respectfully submitted, Hatch Elementary teachers.
Continuaremos a abogar por los recursos que promuevan la igualdad entre los estudiantes de la costa. Respetuosamente, los maestros de Hatch.
Next up is Joaquin Jimenez and then Belinda Arriaga. And after Belinda will be Enrique Asana.
Good evening. I have a sore throat, so I have this so it can help me speak. But a couple weeks ago, I had an opportunity to watch a video where there were some comments made. And it's not what it was said in the video, it's how I understood what it was said in the video. And not just me. There were several other people that understood the same thing I did. One of the first things that came to mind, our new generation, were young children. He brought, kind of, a bit of a history about when, we're talking about before the 60s, where the Chicano students were actually being schooled in barns. That's what came to mind. So that was upsetting. So, of course, I had to say something. I understand, I worked with some of them, some years ago, and they are great teachers. And I felt everything they said, it is true about teachers, about how they care for their students. It is true. But the thing is, what you said today, that should be said, the first time, not as a reply to the comment that some of us made, last week's paper. That should have been it. We're here for our students. We're here for our children. I know there's going to be challenges. We know that. The school district is going through a challenge right now with a deficit of $2.6 million. It's not an easy challenge to overcome. But guess what? We're talking about Moonridge. We know about Moonridge. The socioeconomic status of Moonridge. Let's put the shoe on the other foot. Let's talk about Kings Mountain. What would happen if somebody would say, let's cut the service, let's cut the school, let's close it? What would happen? What is the socioeconomic status of the students, or most of the students on the Kings Mountain? Comparison to that. It's not an easy thing. What's going on right now in our community, not in just our community, but in our country, the fear that's been put into our children. Just yesterday, I got to watch the movie about, anxiety. You have no idea the anxiety parents go through, students go through. And with comments like that, what it was understood from the video, that we got to watch, I was not present when it was said. I would have said something if I would have been present. So the thing is, I understand. I understand that. But now we have to work together. We have to find services. We have to advocate for our students. We have to help our teachers. We have to help our district. There's various organizations in Half Moon Bay, in San Mateo County that can offer services to you. We can provide services. Reach out. We have a lot of professionals in our community that are willing to do on and beyond that needs, to serve the needs of our community, of our students. But please do not make comments. Please do not insinuate something you're going to regret later. Because that's how we took it. That's how I took it. That our students from Moonridge did not deserve to be at high school. One of the things I was going to say, you want me to talk to my friend down the street, Acevedo's feed? They have a couple empty barns. Maybe we can use those barns. That's what I felt when I watched that video. Let's use the resources that we have in our community to better serve our students and support our teachers. Thank you.
Belinda?
Before
At
we
this time, I'm sorry. I just wanted to announce that there are translation services. Sí hay servicios de traducción. Si usted necesita traducción de inglés a español, por favor vaya hacia atrás. El señor Víctor les va a proveer los audífonos para poder escuchar.
And we just want to remind people that if we get a notice that we ever need to provide those translation services, thank you to our staff that got that tonight. Quiero decirles a ustedes que cuando necesitamos traducciones, vamos a tratar a provenirlos. Disculpe mi pocho español.
I'm just going to wait a little bit to make sure that but I think just moving forward that I know that we're going to try to have more folks present, so it might be a good idea to just always have it so that way there's open access. So quiero decir gracias a los papás y mamás jóvenes que están aquí. And just thanking the community for coming tonight. I know it's a really difficult time in our school district, having the budget cuts, everything that's happening right now. But what I have been hearing from the community and just sitting with for a long time is the inequality that exists for our Latino children in our school district that is pretty consistently happening year after year. And I can honestly say I've talked to different school board members about it. I've tried to meet with folks about it. We've tried to highlight so many injustices that we see. This has been going on for years. And you know, on most days we kind of hang our head down and just shrug our shoulders and say, you know, I think people are doing the best they can, I guess. What more can we do? We're trying. But I honestly have to say that our community is exhausted. Our Latino community, especially our children and families at Moonridge, are tired. And they're not just tired of being unseen in many ways. It's a tiring effort to constantly feel othered, to feel invisible, to feel that we're not learning enough, to feel that we're not getting reclassified, to feel that we can't move out of the box of an English learner to regular learner, to feel that our only path for opportunities and change is to send them to Pilarcitos as an alternative, when the system has been letting them down year after year after year in many different ways. And I know teachers in our district are doing everything that they can. I know that you all are here to, you know, bring light to the kids. But I think it's a new day to say, how do we start being creative about bringing in more services, about building equity with the real mission to make change, about seeing each child for the strengths and not the deficits. Because I will tell you, as a concerned parent and and I'm speaking as a community member, I'm speaking in a role as a community member, we are so tired of seeing the barrage of pain that our families have to go through at different levels. And I'll give you a very good example. Mr. Gaitan. You know, some people don't understand that we had a connection with Mr. Gaitan and understood all that he brought to the children of Moonridge. And one thing that Mr. Gaitan told me, and it sticks with me every day, he said, Belinda, I stand out on that sidewalk. When the bus pulls in from Moonridge, I stand there and I shake their hand and I look in their eye and I say, bienvenidos. Bienvenidos means you are welcome. You are welcome in our school. And Mr. Gaitan did not just say bienvenidos, he believed in our kids. He believed that that kid, and we've heard comments that they're always in the principal, that there's 10 kids that are always in the principal. Well, guess what? Those 10 kids made a difference that year. And Mr. Gaitan believed in them till the bitter end, till the day that he gave his letter of resignation. Do you know the loss of Mr. Gaitan to this community? And now we're going to be changing them to Hatch because of, busing and issues like that. And the kids are saying, like, who's going to welcome us? And we know that Mr. Purcell is here, and we've heard from Mr. Purcell saying, we welcome the kids. He's told us he's reaching out for services, and we know that he's here to do that. And thank you, Mr. Purcell, for saying that, and thank you for connecting us, and you've done an amazing job. I've had the privilege to have children, asylum-seeking children, that are locked in the cages, that have come from the horrific things that you've seen on the news to our school district. Why? Because we know that Half Moon Bay is a beautiful place. And guess what school they came to? Mr. Purcell's school. And guess what he did with each and every kid? He sat down and welcomed them with me and others saying, "Estás muy bienvenido aquí." And that's what it starts with, is bienvenido. You are welcome. And that starts from all of us, from the ground up. It starts with the messages right now. Like, you're moving to Hatch. How do we say bienvenidos? Bienvenidos a nuestra escuela, estudiantes de Moonridge, de Fairlawn View. You have a home here. We will find classroom space for you. We will build another portable if we have to. We will bring in programs. We're not going to let you down. And that goes with all our kids. It's been so painful for me to see our high school. You know that how many messages we get of kids that are using drugs, puff bars, failing in school because they're struggling to learn in classrooms. And it's not because... It's because they've had barriers to equity since they were little. So I ask you today to really think about how can, as a school board, as a district, we come together to say bienvenidos to every student and really make a change. Thank you.
Enrique?
Thank you very much. My name is Enrique Asana, and I'm a member of the Latino Council with Joaquin and Belinda also. Something fell. I'm here for a couple of reasons. The first one, there is an initiative measure that we are supporting to put in the ballot that is schools and community first. Joaquin and Belinda are always their ear on the ground next to each other, and they feel the pain and the agotamiento of the Latino community, especially the new migrants, agotamiento by tirelessness, and then our teachers deal with that when they come to classroom and they try to teach math and language, and we know that we need to bring more resources to support that. So this measure is basically reallocating some like $12 billion to support communities and schools, and we'd like to work with you to promote it here in Half Moon Bay to get it in the ballot and get more signatures. If people want to sign it, it's in the end. So that's one thing. And I also want to share that we were worried about how the kids from Moonridge were coming. I really appreciate the teachers to come here and tell us that you guys support the students. Thank you for the principals, for all the efforts and all the communication that we have been having with each other to make sure that there are no misunderstandings. I know that the teachers, being a teacher is a vocation. It's not about teaching math and language only, but it's also about the human being, about taking care of the person, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up is Mariah Gregorius. And then after Maria will be Paul.
My name is Mariah Gregorius, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about the proposed busing cuts for the students who live at Moon Ridge, Pillar Ridge, and Main Street Park. To me, the primary issue is not whether some of our most economically disadvantaged Latino children attend school at Farallon View or Hatch. The issue is whether they receive the education and services they need in order to succeed at work, in their community, and to prepare for adulthood. Low-income families experience a level of stress that we can only imagine. With budget shortfalls, crowded living quarters, the need to work as many hours as possible, and still find time to cherish their children, cook, clothe, clean house, obtain child care, and reliable transportation. Even if Moon Ridge children transfer to Hatch, busing still may be necessary. Are people who work multiple minimum wage jobs able to transport their children from school at the certain appointed times? Will the elimination of busing cause higher absenteeism among children who are the least able to miss class? Will the elimination of busing result in young children walking several miles along Highway 1 twice a day? Will 8-year-olds be riding bicycles along the edge of the highway? Will the children be vulnerable to passerbys? The safety of our children must be our highest priority and is not negotiable. I don't envy you when you make difficult choices with declining funding, but I do believe the community is willing to pitch in. We are willing to write proposals, to recruit and train classroom volunteers, and to seek additional resources. Let's work together to identify priorities and seek solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, board members. We didn't have a chance to compare notes before we came over. I think my wife, Mariah, has said just about everything that needs to be said. I'll just reinforce one image that came to my mind when I first heard about these busing cuts in order to save money for the school system. And I understand that's important, but the image of a 5-year-old kindergarten student, because his parents don't have an auto or can't manage to move their car because they're afraid they'll lose their parking space at Moon Ridge, and it's too dangerous to find another one at night with unlit streets, and unfortunately, a fair amount of drug trafficking in that area. So they have a transportation problem. They can't easily bring their kids to school. And to see the image of a 5-year-old wandering down or up Route 1, Highway 1, from essentially Ocean Colony, where we live, up to Hatch, just blows my mind. I don't think it's tolerable. And it's not reasonable to say that you can make any trade-off with the safety of those children. It's unacceptable. And I hope you can work hard to find a better solution. I also would suggest that you agendize this issue for open discussion by the school committee and the residents of Half Moon Bay, one of which I am. We have no children in the school system. We're supporters of the system, and certainly we pay, like the rest of the residents, for your capital fund and your operating expenses. So that's our interest. Our interest is improving the schools and keeping the kids safe. Thank you very much.
Next up is Shana McCartney and Justin Stockman, sorry.
Hello. Last Monday, I put a post on Nextdoor, and I do not think it won me very many friends, but I felt like enough time had passed to where I felt it necessary to post what I did. I'm not going to read it out loud, but to cut right to the chase, it's about the C building. 4 years ago, when we were evicted from the C building because of the mold issues, we were put into random areas on campus. That was very difficult. Then we spent a year in the portables with no furniture. That was very difficult. Then we got some furniture, some bookshelves and things, and the science teachers, I think, got some sinks, some temporary sinks. That was still not fun for another 2 years, and so a lot of us were really looking forward to moving back to the C building this year. When we got in, we realized that there were a lot of things that had not been done the right way, that were not finished. I do not believe that the C building was ready to be moved back into, looking back on it. Here we are in February. It's been 7 months. We still don't have working heat or ventilation. My lights still do not work, and I still do not have working technology. So this morning, for 3 hours, I could not project anything onto a screen for my students, which is in violation of IEPs. A couple weeks ago, I had a parent meeting from 7:45 until 8:25, and 3 different times in that meeting, the lights just went off, which was really embarrassing to have to get up and walk across the classroom and turn the lights back on. To have that happen 3 times in a half-an-hour-long meeting is ridiculous. So, although I know that nobody here is going to be able to fix all those problems overnight, I think my biggest frustration and what led me to post on Nextdoor is that for the last 6.5 months, these problems have all been made aware. We made them aware to people, to a large number of people. And from our perspective, it seemed like nothing was really done. There's been very little communication back and forth. It just seems like we constantly complained and we heard it's this person's problem, this person doesn't work here anymore, it was that person's, we don't have a person hired yet for this. And after a certain number of months, it needs to be fixed. As a taxpayer, it makes me furious. As the person who, I've come to my classroom before and had it be 52 degrees in the morning, and with a little space heater that's mine, that I owned, it would take almost 2 hours to be able to warm up the room to about 63 degrees. Something needs to change. People need to be held accountable, even though I think a lot of those people aren't here anymore, but something needs to be done moving forward. Our lights, our heat, and our technology really need to be fixed in the C building because it's been a long time coming. 4 years out of that building was very frustrating, and I think a lot of us were just like, let's hang on, we're almost there. And to get back to it and have it be a complete and utter disaster has been very demoralizing. So, thank you for listening.
Good evening, Justin Stockman. I'm furious as well, and I'm furious with you. I was involved significantly in Measure M that scraped by. I was involved very significantly up until about an hour before my 4th child was born on Measure I. I know you know, and I know the community knows, but we pass those measures with community support. And we get community support when the public feels like they can stand behind this school district. We are on significant mistake 5 or so. I mean, we had the original with Building C. We had the awful issue with Hatch right after Measure M was passed, or really before, but not announced until after. We're back with Building C. We have ongoing safety issues at Fairlawn View. And now we're adding a significant busing issue. We have teachers that need to be paid a lot more for the work that they do. I understand the difficult position you're in, but they need to be paid a lot more. We have students that need taken care of. You need more money, right? I want to continue helping that happen. I think you have a community that cares. I mean, look at those students that came up here and stood here, right? So, accountability was just mentioned. And I want to be really clear because I come from an environment of radical accountability. I come from an environment where my own accountability in my life keeps me awake more often than not. So let's talk about who's accountable. You're accountable, the 4 of you. And I know you don't get paid enough for it. I know it's a thankless job. I know it's a ton of work. But you have to take responsibility every time. It can't just be oh, the heat doesn't work, we're fixing it. We need to drill down to why these problems are occurring, and we need to fix them. I'm happy to work with you, this public is happy to work with you, but let's get on it and let's take care of it. Thank you.
Amber, and then Brianna, Abby, and Alice.
I'm going to turn this way because I really want to talk to everybody. So, my name's Amber Surya. I have been here in different capacities, but tonight I'm here on behalf of Co-Siders for Better Education Funding. So we have prepared this statement. It's no secret that our school district has been going through a very difficult time with regards to our financial deficit and the cuts that we will be sustaining in order to maintain solvency and local control. It's hard, emotionally charged, and stressful for parents, teachers, administrators, community members, and students. In short, it sucks. Amidst all the difficulty, though, I have also seen many things that give me great hope, not only for our local community, but for the students throughout the state of California. In the last 6 months, I've seen more community engagement around the status of our school district and the education of our children than I've witnessed over the last 5 years. I've seen parents and neighbors work tirelessly to help pass our parcel tax so that we could avoid the deep staffing layoffs that would have been inevitable had the measure not gone through. I've seen neighboring districts experience similar difficulties and begin to band together in an effort to raise our voices at the state level in order to advocate for better funding on behalf of all K-12 students throughout California. I take heart in knowing that we are not alone in this struggle. The challenges Cabrillo is currently facing are simply a symptom of a systematic deficiency in the way the state of California funds education. Nearly 42 districts throughout the state are experiencing similar or worse struggles. Ravenswood is shutting 4 schools this year. Contra Costa is preparing to lay off 250 staff members. And all but one district in San Diego will be filing a negative budget within the next 3 years. Without a doubt, what we are feeling is a symptom of a much larger issue. The state funding formula for K through 12 education is broken. We are ranked 39th for per pupil spending, and the state often diverts education funding to areas not related to education. The root cause of our struggle lies in Sacramento, and as such, the most sustainable solution also lies in Sacramento. Local parcel taxes and bond measures and partnerships with nonprofits are all extremely important. They offer stabilization, but they are not long-term sustainable solutions. Ultimately, they are Band-Aids that serve to stem bleeding, but do not actually address the root cause of the problem. Co-Siders for Better Education Funding is imploring everyone here tonight to work with us in order to advocate for better education funding at the state level. If we can channel all of our emotion, frustration, upset, and passion toward the root cause of our problem and use our voices in concert with others around the state who are doing the same, we can actually make an impact, not just for our local students, but for all students within the state. We have postcards that will be sent to Sacramento advocating for a cost of living supplement being added to the local control funding formula. Please sign one tonight. We will mail it for you. Within the next 2 weeks, we will be joining forces with multiple districts throughout the state to revive the advocacy for AB 39, which is the assembly bill that will increase the base per pupil funding targets in the state's funding formula. Let's use the energy and passion within our community to work on the ultimate solution to our financial distress. That solution is not here in this room, but in Sacramento, and it will take as many voices as possible, raised in unison, in order to demand that our state do better by our children. Cabrillo's financial deficit is not unique, but our community is unique. In fact, our community is extraordinary, and we can accomplish amazing things. We need everyone in this community to stand with us on behalf of better K-12 state education funding. Our voices are more powerful when we're united. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brianna La Fontaine. I am a parent with Cabrillo and an active community member. I hadn't planned on saying anything this month, as I know we won't have a better understanding of our financial situation until next month when the state submits their next budget draft. Then I thought I should just let the school board know I am thankful for you. I have realized this past year that being a school board member in this climate is a thankless job with minuscule to no pay. Through all the snickers and glares during the meetings and the countless emails and more in between, you all take it in stride. I am thankful that you all listen to me and that I feel heard by you. On behalf of the El Granada PTO, thank you, Sean, Kim, and Sophia, for coming to our school this week and letting us have a forum for open dialogue. Now to my soapbox. In our meeting this week, Kim said that if anything didn't feel or sound right, just ask. I'm not in education, I'm just a parent and community member, but after months of trying to figure out why the district office is stacked the way it is, I still don't feel right. I have asked, why do we have 6 administrative assistants and 2 clerical assistants, and what do they do? And I was told that is standard for the industry. Well, we aren't in a standard position. We are in a financial crisis where cuts are being made that directly affect the classroom and everyone who is in it. We are paying for administrators to each have an assistant, while our teachers don't have aides. Our children are having beneficial programs taken from them. Educators are going to be laid off, and much more. This equation doesn't feel right to me. We are right-sizing our schools, but what about right-sizing the district office? Though I understand there is a reason for management in business, I don't believe in management to the detriment of those getting the work done. That is, in this industry of children, the teachers and the employees who work with and better the life of every CUSD child every day. A top-heavy business will not be successful. It will smother and push out the shoulders they are sitting on. School board members, I implore you to take a line-by-line financial look at our district office and verify that all the positions we are paying for are absolutely necessary and worth more than the mental health employees we are cutting, the buses that ensure our students get to school safely and consistently, the food that might be the one of the few meals that a child is guaranteed, the people who keep our campuses secure, and the teachers who tirelessly build our children's social, emotional, and educational foundation. And if you've already done this, then please show us. Let us put this option that seems obvious to some of us aside and let us move on. Or maybe you will find that right-sizing the district office will give our families a little less to worry about and our kids more to enjoy in their classrooms. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Abbey Foster. I'm a parent of 2 students in Cabrillo Unified and also a teacher at Hatch in my 24th year. And so first of all, I just wanted to say I really appreciate everyone's comments tonight, and I just wanted to clarify my own comments regarding the busing, because in case I was somehow misconstrued, my advocacy is not to not have Moonridge kids. I have always had Moonridge kids as an immersion teacher, and I value everything that they bring to my classroom. I am just advocating to make sure that they have the choice to go to the school where they want, and that choice isn't taken away by taking away the bus. So if people want to choose Hatch, I welcome you with open arms. I always have. And I hope that you come, because we would love to have you in our program. That said, now I want to move forward to the reason why I signed up to speak tonight, which is the kindergarten extended day discussion. I taught kindergarten in the district for 21 of my 24 years here. Before that, I taught kindergarten for 2 years in Guatemala. I taught kindergarten for a year in Spain, and I taught kindergarten for 2 years in a Montessori school. So I've got a lot of experience teaching kindergarten, and one of the things that I've always liked about our program in this district is the option for the extended day. Our students have a half-day program, but half the students stay for the full day, and that gives us the opportunity to work with the children at a level that is developmentally appropriate for them, and also in a small group setting where we're really able to target the needs of our students. I was involved in the decision to write the MOU that's in the current contract. Before that, it was totally informal extended day, and it was done at the teacher's discretion, and we started it because we saw the need for the small group instruction. Originally, it was just the half-day program, and we began this extended day, and we started it later in the year because we noticed that the students were barely getting through till 11:15. At that time, it was 11:30. They were barely making it to 11:30. At 9:30, they were asking if it was time to go home yet, literally falling asleep at the table. And parents would report that their students were falling asleep at 5:30 in the evening and sleeping through until the next day. So the kids just aren't there. They're not ready for that full-day kindergarten, in my experience of all these years that I've been teaching. They do need some extra support, and that's why the 2-day-a-week program, starting a little bit later in the year, has always been ideal in my mind. I completely understand that some people need more than that, and that some kids are ready for more than that. So my opinion would be that it would be great to be able to offer an option for kids to stay longer, for those who need it, for childcare, or for those children who are ready for more. And I would love to be involved in a conversation. I've just been flipping through this. This is the first I've seen, but it looks like there might be a committee. I'd love to be a part of that committee that helps to work on a plan that is appropriate for our students in our district. As we all know, our community is unique, and what works across the state and across the country and in other districts isn't necessarily what works for us. And we know that, but we want to use information and data to make a smart decision, but also our own experience and our own knowledge of our students. So I would love to be a part of that conversation. And I notice here that it says extended day kindergarten is preferred by teachers and parents. I definitely prefer the option of having that small group time. I would think it would be detrimental to have all the kids stay every day, because then you lose that opportunity to really meet the individual needs of your students. So I hope that you will take that into consideration, and please contact me if you start that committee. Thank you.
Alice.
Thank you all for listening to all of us, and also for the teachers for coming in and saying all that they said, and the principal, Mr. Purcell, and Mr. Barnes, of course, being here. I think what I just want to say today is that I know everyone's struggling with a really stressful time, stressful budget, and it's just really important that we really think about the words we use and how we listen. And one of the things would be, I'm here with some of the Moonridge families tonight, to listen to the families there. And if any of you have been able to go and sit and talk with them and listen to them about their experience, I think that would be a really important step in this whole process. Because, you know, the history, right? They talked about how they were at Hatch and they were very involved in their kids' education because it was close by and it was really helpful. And then they didn't have the option, even though they showed up and talked to the school board about being bused. And now they're getting another shift. So I think it's really important to listen to the families to find out what is it that they need now at this point. And then the other piece of it is just to recognize, you know, the families, they're working really long hours, 7 in the morning till 5:30 at night, Monday through Saturday. I work with farm workers all over the place, and they barely have enough time to do wash on Sunday. And so when we look at the budget, someone once said that the budget is a moral document because it says who are you going to be most prioritizing and taking care of. And so I think it's really important that you really look at who is in the greatest need at this point, and then provide the resources as much as possible, starting with those who are struggling with that. And in addition, that wouldn't just be Moonridge families, but the Spanish-speaking families haven't had as much of a chance to voice a lot of things too. So if there would be a way to extend to that and look at bilingual education as an additive bilingual education, that it's positive that students have two languages, and they're bringing so many gifts to the community that go unseen in their churches in the community. To realize the resource that they offer is important. And then I think just finally just count on the community. You know, they're bringing a lot of gifts, and the community has a lot of gifts in these times. Maybe it's an opportunity that more of us can step together. I know that there's a lot of people, volunteers, Alice is working, community programs are working, high school students are a resource. Notre Dame de Nemours University offered to partner with the school district at one point. And I've talked to other people in community colleges. This may be an opportunity to pull together different resources so that we can all work to make sure that all the kids are being supported in a really difficult financial time, especially those who are also struggling with economic difficulties at home. So I just thank you for listening to me, and just encourage the continuation of listening to the families and finding out how we can best serve.
Thank you. We do have more comments cards, but these are for specific topics that will come up later in the agenda. I would ask that if anyone is available to stick around for another 5 or 10 minutes. We do have we've reordered the agenda tonight, and so we'll have our employee organization reports and then our board member reports. Usually by the time board members actually speak, it's empty. So in case you're interested in what we've been hearing and doing, please note that we've moved that up. Hoping that it feels like communication is a little broader. And as always, you can always contact us individually. So that said, our CUTA representatives.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Dr. Mike Fetridge, and all of those in attendance. Tonight, I would like to speak to the Moonridge families. So, let me turn this way. First of all, thank you for being here advocating for your children. I know many of you work all day, and attending a meeting this late can be challenging. My dad, a farm worker, would work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 6 days a week. Luckily, my mom was a stay-home parent. We moved to the U.S. at the beginning of my 8th grade. We didn't know how the education system worked, but my mom would always be involved by attending meetings, parent-teacher conferences, and other things. Just like all of you here care for your child's education, my parents care for mine. So seeing all of you here, it brings me so many positive memories. My name is Ramon Macias. I teach at Cunha, and I am the co-president for CUTA, the union which represents teachers and educators. I know certain things have been said in the community that is affecting families, teachers, and most importantly, our students. All I can tell you is that your children are welcome at Cabrillo, and it doesn't matter their background, economic status, or color of their skin. I can testify that teachers at Hatch are advocating for all children because they care for their learning. I am truly sorry, and I apologize if our message came across in the wrong way. That was not, and it is not, our intention. We, educators, want the best for all of our students. If attending Hatch is what you want for your children, that is your right, and we're here to support you. But we cannot do it without you. We need you. I do want to ask a few things from you. You have some homework. More students means, or should mean, more resources for Hatch. As a district, how do you want to support your children during this transition? They are going to provide reading intervention. There are currently 547 students at Hatch, and only one reading intervention teacher 4 days a week to support students in English. And another reading intervention teacher 3 days a week for support in Spanish. In times of budget cuts, is the district committing to hire another person? What about your child? What about your child has an IEP or a 504? Is that only resource specialists at Hatch enough for more caseloads? Are they going to bring a resource specialist from another site? Are they going to hire a new person? Or maybe aides, I don't know. Please ask all of these questions. Do you have a kindergarten or first grader? If they have to take public transportation, is a bus going to drop them off by the school? By Cunha? Do they have to cross Highway 1 by themselves? What are your options? Please ask these questions. I am going to stop here before I get in trouble with the board and Dr. McFetrich. But before I finish, I would like to say something in Spanish, so I apologize to the non-speaking people here in this meeting. No dejen que les den gato por liebre. Unidos somos más fuertes. United we are stronger. And to the board, respected educators are effective educators. Gracias y buenas noches.
Superintendent McFetrich, board members, and administrative leadership. My name is Sean Reardon. I'm the Chief Bargaining Chair for the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. The CUTA leadership met with Dr. McFetrich last week, and it was productive, and we agreed. And that was a change of tone, right? And we agreed that we needed to reset the tone of the communication between the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association and the district leadership. So making these speeches is hard. Saying those difficult words is hard. They're hard to say, and I know they're hard to hear. So I went to the communication team for the CUTA, and I asked them to write a petition that was fact-based and was based in our position. So I'd ask my members, my colleagues are already standing behind me, thank you. So after they wrote this petition for me, I went to our contract action team based at each site, and I said, circulate this petition, and let's hear what we got. We support the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association bargaining team in leading our fight for a fair contract. We need a contract that respects educators so that we can be the best teachers possible for our students. The district office claims we don't have enough money for a cost of living adjustment, yet there is a reserve of 10.39%, more than 7% higher than legally necessary. The spending that is currently happening at the district office indicates that we are not in financial distress. Our contract and our current salary schedule was negotiated 3 years ago and expired 7 months ago. Our educators need a salary increase. Our two-tier teachers need to have an increase to their health care cap. This district can afford to pass on some of the increased state COLA funding to our teachers. Increasing the salary for all teachers in our district is reasonable. We can afford it. Respected educators are effective educators. The following teachers stand in solidarity with the Cabrillo Unified Bargaining Team. Kurt Murray, Diane Angst, Daniel Robles, Lucinda Hitchner, Nora Mote, David Papp, Jared Milhouse, Jeff, Mary Coyle, Carrie Demers, Lisa Longacre, Janice Lee, Rajan Betcher, Sherry Robinson, Ruth Ann Wolk, Nicole Hagaki, Maria Portello-Swaggle, Aaron O'Connor-Brown, Rosabelle Wines, Caleb Hartman-Pickens, Naomi Cousins, Matt Ripberger, Fernando Ramos, Ramon Macias, Thea Wallach, Jenny Scarpacci, Rebecca Jeffs, Jan McFarland-Bound, Peggy Rothenberg, Sherry Hall, Marlena Ramirez, Kelly Parr, Kathy Ripberger, Kate Berkowitz, Eric Denault, Erlinda Tuliak, Lauren Bigelow, Heidi Mills, Abbey Foster, Maria Skinner, Missy Veloso, Kathleen Wall, Monica Nolan, Claudia Frank, Angie Work, Teresa Kammerer, Marianne Benson, Shana McCartney, Marcine Kendall, Joseph Santoni, Hannah Carney, Brianna Camosi, Tracy Yerby, Andrew Majora, Raphael Dubon, Joey Naple, Kenneth Gray, Sarah DeSantis, Gerhard Hees, Florente Villar, Amy Trainer, Lisa Morford, Ann Reichelbusch, Cameron Tyson, Molly Schauer, Teresa Jansen, Patrick Gomez, Claire Gould, Richard Van Weingarten, John Carey, Anthony Agundis, Michael Pomani, Carrie DiMartini, Brittany Jovalette, Michael Muramoto, James Ward, Brian Long, Gabriella Lomelli, Christina Baker, Christina Yakeley, Dustin Taylor, Brian Anderson, Sebastian Hart, Walter Anderson, Andrew Hoskins, Sarah Bunkin, Andrew Brown, Graham Westwood, Mike Berrigan, Jake Ward, Holden Hicks, Jim Toner, Brendan Roth, Claudia Lenstroth, Sean Reardon. Thank you.
CSEA? We'll go on to the board member reports. Do you want to start, Freya?
Hi, everyone. First off, I just want to say thank you to everybody who came tonight to listen and everyone who came tonight to speak. And I want you all to know that although by state law we're not allowed to have a conversation or a dialogue with all of you, we have heard you all and we take what you have said into consideration when we're making decisions in the future, when we have future conversations. And please know, I believe it's for all the board members, but particularly for me, a lot of you who spoke know me, you have my email address. If you ever want to speak, if you ever want to have coffee or tea or meet at the school for lunch or go for a walk or whatever, I'm always happy to talk. It's a small community and I've had a lot of you as teachers of my children. So I just wanted to say thank you for speaking, all of you and the Moonridge community. And we really, really have heard what you said and look forward to working together. I think our mission is already equity for everyone and bienvenidos a todos. And I believe that we can continue to work to make that better because there's always room for improvement in everything. Wanted to talk a little bit about the budget because that's just numbers are there and they're around. And I want to say a special call out to Amber and say thank you so much for your call out for advocacy. I agree with what you said about the power of all of us and the people that we can connect to around the state. And thank you to Heidi and Ramon for meeting with me this week. And we talked about ways that we could work with the teachers and their union to also put pressure on the state so that we're all unifying together to really try and make that change. As Amber said, there's some hopeful news. Right now they're trying to pressure different budget committees to try and get funds to actually allocate it to AB 39. It has a very, very good chance of passing the legislature. The question then becomes whether or not Governor Newsom would sign it. And again, that is needed to address inequity across the state, not just in our own district. So Sean and Kim and I have been meeting we've met with one of our representatives. We've got meetings with two others on the 28th, the end of February, and we're talking to them about AB 39 and full and fair funding. After we met with them last year, and because of the advocacy of our community group, they are already co-authors of that bill, but we're going to talk to them about what we can do to help them put pressure on other legislatures to sign on, and also trying to find other ways that they can help us, other bills that maybe they can think of to figure out how we can get some more funding to districts. So we're working really hard on that state level. Also on the budget, just real quick to kind of give so we will have our interim budget report, our second interim in March, and after that we will know a lot more information about what kind of cuts have actually done in our savings, what the actual governor's budget looks like. Of course, we won't know for sure with the governor's budget until the May revise and then June. And I would like to propose, it seems like there's often a lot of questions about the budget, and I know that we often need a little bit more time to discuss the budget as well. So I'd like to propose to staff that potentially we could do a special budget study session so that community members who wanted to come and really hear from Jesus and we could have more of a conversation. It wouldn't be an action item, but we'd like to do that maybe sometime in March, end of March, so that we can all have that conversation, so we can all be on the same page. I haven't been on the board for 9 years. I pore over every single budget that comes, and Jesus doesn't know this quite yet, although I asked you a few questions last time. I ask questions every time. What is this number? What is this discrepancy? What's going on here? You kind of get a sense of them after a while, and they do change all the time, and that's one of the things that's really difficult. The other part, of course, is that we have to have balanced budgets 3 years out, and that is a requirement. That's one of the main reasons why we're qualified and potentially going negative. That is a state requirement. So again, we're kind of caught in between these requirements here and lack of adequate funding with what we can do. But I want to just say for the teachers, I want to give you raises. I really, really do. I have over the last 9 years that I've been on this board. We've given raises several times. So given, if we can, economically, that is something that I am fully in support of. And then just wanted to give a little update about other stuff I've been doing. I started my school site visits, which is one of the fun things that I do every year. Unfortunately, sometimes in election cycles, so last fall when we were doing the parcel tax, I didn't make it to the school sites, but I've got most of my schools scheduled. I still need to figure out Pilarcitos, and Deb's going to email me about Kings Mountain. But I went to Farallon View today, and it was so wonderful to sit. I eat lunch with the teachers, so anyone can come into the room and chat with me. Sometimes we just talk about kids. Sometimes we talk about issues. And then I meet with the principal for about half an hour. And Miss Thea invited me into her classroom today to look at structured learning. And it was so sweet. It started with 10 or 15 minutes of mindfulness where we all sat on the rainbow carpet and took some deep breathing. And I can just tell you I was stressed this week. And it was a perfect antidote to be with first graders. Doing a little bit of mindfulness, sending love and kindness out to the science teacher who's been sick. So I was just really want to thank her for welcoming me in, and then seeing the structured learning and the sentences and the other stuff. And it, of course, brought me back to when my kids were that little. They're not as cute anymore. I mean, we won't tell them that. Anyway, so, and then one of the other things, I mean, of course, we've been, I've got about 3 more years left in this term on the board, and dealing with finances and working on campaigns and other things, but I'm really excited to start working on some items that I'm also very excited about, passionate about, and so later on tonight, we'll be talking about a couple of committees, and one of them is our Environmental Sustainability Committee. And Sean and I and Amy McVicker and one of the HEAL folks went to a conference on Friday that the County Office of Education put on environmental sustainability, climate change, and impacts on schools. Some of you might know my background is in environmental studies and environmental law, so I'm just really excited to, we already do so much on this, and to be able to kind of formalize some of that and look at steps forward and so many of the partners that we have in our community already. So I'm very, very excited to be working on that. So that'll be a little bit later, but I just wanted to mention that. So thank you all again for coming and speaking and listening.
I wanted to, again, I echo a lot of what Freya says, and thank you all for coming. And yes, we do hear you, and always feel free to reach out. I want to talk a little bit about last night with the high school put on where they had the movie Angst that they showed, and I was super impressed at how much of the community came out to that. They counted 120 people there, and they also had a link over to Moon Ridge, and they had about, they think, another 25 or so people there. So I just really wanted to say thank you to the Health and Wellness Committee at the high school for putting that on and being aware and caring about the emotional well-being of our children. I thought it was a great turnout from not just parents but also the community. It was kind of a well-rounded effort. So thank you to them. I also want to echo what Amber and Freya said about advocacy at the state level. I think it's very important, and I think the work that everyone is doing towards that is super important. So I just want to keep continuing to stress that. It's a big deal to get things straightened out. And that's about all I have. I just really want to encourage people that if you have an issue or you have a concern or you have a thought you want me or anyone else on the board to be aware of, please reach out. I am as well happy to talk on the phone or sit and talk or email or whatever you want to do. But please feel free to reach out, and I really do appreciate all of you coming. And as Freya said, we really do listen and take what you say to heart. And it is really hard not to respond and have a whole conversation with you while you're up there. So anyway, thanks for that.
Done the first one. I also want to say I appreciate everybody coming and not only hearing you but also having you guys stay and hear everything else that's presented after. I think it's very important if you're not able to come and you do watch the whole board meeting, because there is also a lot of other information that I hope people are not missing because, I understand people have to leave, but if they can stay, I always appreciate when people, not only are you here to be heard, but you're also here to hear. And for me, that's important. What I've been doing besides selling Girl Scout cookies and doing homework and all that, I actually, one of the things that stood out was something that I think El Granada has done, but Hatch did it. And it's the first time they did it, and I want to say thank you to the principal. It was out of an interest from the parents, from the DLACs and the ELACs, to get support on the reclassification, and the parents just knowing that the test is coming, the LPAC test is coming, and so the teachers set up a classroom full of Chromebooks ready to go because we were trying to do it out of one of the ideas that Dr. Batia had. And it kind of worked, but just getting the electronics, and it was not as productive as I think we could have had. But thank you to Mr. Porcels. He invited the parents and the students, and together the kids and the parents were doing a run test of the practice LCAP test, and it was so informative. And the liaison made hot chocolate for us. I mean, it was amazing. Thank you so much. I think that goes a long way in feeling support as a parent, and just having that support that tool to help your child, even though it was hard for some of the parents, but just having them there and looking at the test and making sure that we put our kids and do that 10 minutes and you going through it and taking your time. Thank you so much. It's very helpful. Also, sorry, just been meeting with people in the community, and also just welcome anybody who would like to talk to me and give me a different perspective, because I only have my perspective, and I think it's always important to hear other people out and hear their perspectives as well of just concerns and things that are happening. I also attended, oh my God, I hope I say this right, the foundation event. I didn't want to go. And then it was right after the reading club, but I took my little girl, and she, I think I did it more for her, and it was just an amazing thing because they had the guy that, and I didn't know it was through, that he had received money from the Cabrillo Education Foundation Fund, but the Fossil Friday event that happens at the library, it was created by one of our community members. So just a lot of cool things that are happening, and just to see the community that's supporting the district and supporting us in this financial difficult time, and anything that they help us, is always appreciative. So thank you to them, and thank you everybody for being here.
So as we started the meeting this evening, I wasn't quite as organized with my paperwork and focusing on some of the bullet points. I neglected to mention we had a special session just over a week ago. The board met for 6 hours on a Saturday, and we spent in-depth time reviewing our mission statement and our equity policy, and we reaffirmed those as basis for making decisions in this district. There were some other pieces that we realized in terms of a graduate student profile. There's more work to do, and we need to pull in community members for that. But it was a wonderful opportunity to talk about what happens in our district, and given the cuts that we've had to make, to ask those wonderment kind of questions. We know we have to make cuts. We have to make everything fit. We want our teachers to have raises. And at the end of the day, what's happening to our students? So, what is that equity piece and what are the foundational elements that all of the kids need. We know that some parents can buy it by the yard and they can do extracurricular after school and they can have, you know, a variety of experiences. But I think it's really important at the end of the day that we look holistically, this is my opinion, at the kids. And I appreciated the fact that all of the board members and Dr. McFetridge came together to have those discussions. You know, we were able to reflect on the presentation that Leticia had made, Dr. Batia, in terms of where we're not meeting the mark with English language learners. And so please know that while we are doing the business of the district in terms of having to balance the budget and make cuts and figure out how to give raises, that we also are holding gently this longer term vision that we know we need to do. It has to be a yes and. It's not an either or, it is a yes and. So we have a sustainable, healthy district into the future. So I really value the input that all of our board members made to that. When Freya and I went to Mark Berman's office, I went to pick up on the cost of living cards that hopefully people will sign to adjust the state budget statewide. That's from our point of view. What Mark Berman told us was that that same message needs to bubble up from districts in other locales. Because right now, he felt that his voice from a rich district, meaning his district in San Francisco, where we have some other basic aid, meaning districts that get a lot of property tax money and they get more per pupil funding than we do, that message of equity across the state needs to come up. And so please know there is work behind the scenes on those pieces. So I think maybe we can talk a little bit in terms of how the parent advocacy group can help with communications across the state, not just to the congressman or the assemblyman. I was delighted to go, I had 2 visits to El Granada this month. I promised to get to the other schools too, but the master planning meeting for the community, I am a neighbor of El Granada School, and so it was really nice to hear kind of the brainstorming on what is desired for that campus, and these are inputs that will go into redesign at El Granada School, and a similar meeting was held at Fairlawn View. The PTO meeting was wonderful, and yes, I opened the conversation with what's the hairball, meaning what are your worries and what are your fears, because those are really important things, and we want to hear, and I hope you feel like we're holding space for that, and that we're listening with closely and with curiosity, and that we are hearing, and we want to carry those pieces forward. And finally, like all of the other board members, I am certainly available. My work has me travel a little bit more, but I hope that I'm usually home on the weekends, and I'll only be gone 1 weekend next month. And so I'm happy to meet with parents one-on-one or in groups, because I want you to be heard. And I'm so delighted that for some of the people's comments, we have other agenda items later that address CUNA and some of the problems we've had. So with that, Dr. McFetridge? Oh, student? I'm sorry,
Mr. Barnes may be the oldest student in the district. No, he's not the oldest. I'm definitely older than
Sorry, I didn't realize you were doing the report.
Yeah, I am not Lauren DuBose, but I am going to substitute for her tonight to read the student board representative report as the hosting principal for tonight's board meeting. So to begin with, we've been really busy with our students at Los Listos Preschool. Last month, we studied helpers in the community, and we created a fire station and post office play areas at our classroom. We discussed how both boys and girls can practice all the professions like doctors, firefighters, engineers, police officers, etc. We finished our theme with a visit at the classroom from a firefighter and a deputy sheriff. We celebrated 100 days of school and brought 100 items that were collected with parents and shared at the classroom. In our efforts to continue sustainability and program quality improvement for our state Big Lift preschool program, we are currently working in partnership with CEF on writing a grant proposal to the Rotary Club of Half Moon Bay Foundation that kindly has supported local nonprofit projects with a significant award of funds. In the last few years, recipients have included the HEAL Project and Abundant Grace. Most recently, the recipient was the Friends of Half Moon Bay Library. This year, we are getting in the pool of nonprofit organizations and will be submitting our grant requests for up to $5,000 to be able to enhance our outside play area to help our students have more hands-on opportunities and intentional playing. It's been a great February up at Kings Mountain Elementary School with lots of learning, projects, and community building taking place. We participated in the Kindness Challenge by donating change for pennies for patients. As another Kindness Challenge, students made Valentines for vets and for the Meals on Wheels homebound seniors. Kindergarten first grade's next field trip is to Inkspell Books and Farallon View Elementary School on February 26. The class hopes to inspire their TKAK students to take care of the environment. In math, Kings Mountain is learning geometry, shapes, place value, and fractions. Students are learning about the hearing impaired, reading I Am Deaf, and will practice a song in sign language. The 2-3 class is working on a puppet show for the kindergarten first grade class, and one of the shows is about a time machine catastrophe. The 4th and 5th grade class is learning about the oceans and why they are important. They are also learning about the 13 colonies in early America. Tomorrow, they will be going to the creek to test and learn about water quality. It's very important to have clean water for the plants and animals. At El Granada, it's been all dancing, bubbles, music, and twinkle lights. We ended the month with a bubblegum dance party celebrating all the swimming that's happening at El Granada. That evening, our PTO sponsored a family fun night, which was a ton of fun. Then on February 8th, we had a sweetheart dance for all our families, which was all fun, friendship, photo booths, and dancing. Thank you to Christina, Todd, and Heidi for organizing such great events. Coming on February 26th, Ms. Ladd is hosting a tea and talk to discuss the importance of attendance. On February 28th, we have our second kindergarten school tour starting at 8:30, and that evening, our world-famous talent show starting at 6:00 p.m. And yes, El Granada's got talent. The American Red Cross will come again to Hatch. Students will get presentations to be prepared in case of an emergency. 3rd grade will get the pillowcase project presentation. 4th and 5th grade students will be presented with Raise to Preparedness. TK through 2nd grade will be presented with Prepare with Pedro the Penguin. Hatch leadership students are ready to launch the Buddy Bench project. A Buddy Bench will be placed on the playground on March 9th, where students will have the opportunity to meet and greet other students for emotional support, making new friends, and learn from each other. Hatch leadership students will be presenting the project in every class starting the week of March 2nd. And thank you to Mrs. Izzarelli, Ms. Megan, and Ms. Wilhelms. Kindness Campaign will be launched at Hatch also the first week of March. Each classroom will be provided with a kindness box for students to write kind messages to each other. Some of the messages will be presented on the Hatch morning announcement. The Spanish Immersion Parent Association garage sale will be on Friday, February 28th. We invite all the community to participate in this fun garage sale. Hatch also hosted LPAC training for parents. ELAC parents had the opportunity to navigate through the state test website and explore the LPAC test format to better have our ELD students ready for the test. Farallon View Elementary participated in the Great Kindness Challenge, January 27th through 31st. Students wrote notes of appreciation to various staff members on campus and participated in various kind acts throughout the week. 138 students, almost half of the school, turned in a kindness bingo blackout sheet or a kindness checklist. To wrap up the week of kindness, each student at Farallon View decorated a feather with a note of kindness to place on our Kindness Lifts Us Up poster created by 3rd grade teacher Kelly Parr. On January 28th, Farallon View parents and community members were able to sit down with Quattrochi Quack architects to discuss the community's vision for upcoming renovations at Farallon View. Among the potential items discussed were outdoor learning opportunities, a full kitchen, a makerspace, and a community gathering space. Our students have been able to extend their learning beyond the classroom through various field trips recently. Ms. Bigelow's fourth grade students participated in habitat restoration by planting 250 native plants on Rancho Corral de la Tierra, or Montera Mountain. Ms. Ripberger's and Ms. Scarpacci's students expanded their historical knowledge at the Santa Cruz Mission and the San Mateo County History Museum, respectively. Yesterday, February 12th, was our HEAL graduation for third graders. Students were able to demonstrate their agricultural science knowledge, as well as enjoy a delicious and healthy farm-to-table meal. Today, February 13th, our third grade students delivered a spectacular performance of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. There's another performance this evening, as well, which is sure to be just as wonderful. Cunha has been very busy this month. We just had our sweetheart dance, and students had a great time. We had to escort a few high school students out who wanted to come. Thanks to Raj Betcher, we also held a hip-hop assembly for the 7th graders that taught them hip-hop history, showed them examples of breakdancing, and had students come out and try their hand at rapping. We also had a pregame assembly to meet Leon's Space Jam from the Harlem Wizards. Their show last Sunday was a lot of fun and raised money for Cunha Sports through the Boys and Girls Club, which has agreed to take on our athletic program beginning next year. Cunha's amazing sports program will continue. And finally, we're moving ahead strongly with restorative justice practices, both through staff development, intensive training of our counselors, and actual practice to resolve conflicts among our students with restorative circles. And also on January 29th, we welcomed the 5th graders from all the elementary schools for the 5th grade carnival. It was fantastic seeing them there. And there they learned what it is to be a middle schooler, to play games, to tour the school, and work with our leadership kids who hosted them. Parents joined us that evening to hear from counselors and from me and meet other students, and they also toured the school to learn what they're going to have to do to support their children as middle schoolers. Big step forward. Half Moon Bay High School has had various special happenings on our campus this past month. Leadership hosted the annual blood drive, where we broke our record from previous years and received over 50 donations from students and staff. The community was able to enjoy the exquisite student art pieces that were displayed at the Art Department Open Studio in January. Schools such as Cunha, El Granada, and Mills High School traveled to our gym to take part in this year's Special Olympics. This past week, our Health and Wellness Committee organized a school-wide showing of the documentary Angst. The goal of showing this documentary to our school was to learn more about anxiety and how to find and practice ways to live with it. Just a few weeks ago, we had our winter assembly for the whole school to join. Highlights included a performance by our dance team, the prom theme reveal, a limbo contest between the grades, a winter sports video, and a video by our kindness group. We are already gearing up for next year as our incoming freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors submit their course request forms for the fall. La Costa Adult School will be starting in mid-March. We will be supporting 4 evenings of census support to the community. This will go through late April. As well, we have bought custom census shirts with a logo for La Costa Adult School, and will be covering an overview of the census questionnaire along with the types of information that is requested from the community. In addition, we'll be hosting a total of 3 presentations by the census ambassadors from San Mateo Adult School who will give an overview of the census, what to expect, etc. Finally, the support sessions starting in mid-March through late April will allow students, their families, and other community members to bring in their census postcards from the mail to get support with completing the census. This can be done on the computer in one of our labs, over the phone with staff assistance if needed, or we can assist with helping them fill out the paper questionnaire if they've requested a copy. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. I do want to take some time to respond to some things that were said tonight. First of all, I want to thank the Hatch teachers who stood up tonight, who came together to provide a welcome to all students. And I appreciated seeing that in the newspaper. And I also wanted to thank Joaquin and Belinda and Enrique Asana for coming tonight to speak also in the same regard. We do have to work together. We do have to make sure that all students feel welcome, that that everyone feels welcome in the district. And I appreciated Mr. Bazan's description of the schools and communities first. Once it's on the ballot, of course, I won't be able to advocate for it, but I appreciate that many will be, and I appreciate you doing that. I do appreciate Mr. Bazan's note that we are all human beings and that we approach each other as human beings, and I know that our teachers and our support staff, district office staff, our principals, everyone, that's our first thing, is to make sure that we feel safe and that we feel respected and heard and listened to and feel human. I do appreciate the concerns that have been raised about transportation. I was talking to Norma Miramontes yesterday at the library about this and other ways that we could look at providing support to make sure that students, if they do choose to go to Hatch, would have the resources. And with that same expression, I heard that I just want to reiterate, we will need to make sure that we have resources that follow students if they choose to go to Hatch. To Shana McCartney, I want to say a personal apology. I don't know if Shana's still here. Shana emailed me on Monday. I had heard this at a CUNA staff meeting that Mr. Barnes had invited me to in January. We have struggled with the heat and with the HVAC issues. Later tonight, there will be a contract. We got a proposal on January 23rd. It had to go through legal, and tonight the board will be able to consider that for approval. But it is something, and I see Justin Stockman in the back of the room, that I have to be accountable for, and I take accountability for that. And I agree with Shana that looking back on it in retrospect, we may have done better by not opening Building C when we did. That said, there's a lot of work to do. Mr. Barnes has been doing work. Our staff have been doing work to drill down on these items, and I'm hoping that we will fix that HVAC system, fix the controls, fix the lighting controls, and fix the technology in the rooms where it hasn't been working. But again, to Shana McCartney, she and I emailed on Monday. I emailed again on Wednesday, spoke to several people who commented and called me from next door who had read it. This was nothing to do with block construction. This was everything to do with a legacy system. And unfortunately, we were unable to respond. And I want to apologize again to the staff and students who were impacted by that. Justin, I'm happy to speak with you, but I think you heard me. I need to take accountability for that. And I appreciate your participation as a parent leader, as a community leader, and all that you've done in your advocacy over the last months and years. Amber, it was good seeing you today, and I appreciate what you do with the Coasides for Better Education funding. And I've often been one to sort of say that we need to take the fight to the state, but we have some work to do here. Brianna, I want to thank you for inviting us to your PTO meeting. When was that, this week? Tuesday. I think it is often very good when we're able to have a session where we're able to just ask questions and hear from each other, and I appreciated Freya's remark on that front about looking at the budget going forward in the same way. To Abbey Foster, I want to say I appreciated meeting with you. Is Abby still in the room? Abby met with me recently to talk about some of the history about Moonridge families and the boundary there, and I think it's important as a newcomer to the district that I hear those stories, and I was appreciative that Abby came to talk to me about that. Alice, I heard her to listen to Moonridge. We've been to Moonridge. We will go back to Moonridge. I think it is important that we follow that, and I have committed to working with Joaquin and Belinda, Enrique. I'd be happy to meet with you, and also Norma Miramontes. We will be going back to Moonridge and listening to some of their needs and responding in kind. And the last bit about what we heard from Ramon Macias and Sean Reardon. I told Sean when he came and met with me and Ramon that I would echo the sentiment. I think it is important for us to reset, and I think it is important for us to reset every day. This has been a very painful time. I've likened this to sort of grief and suffering. Who was it? Kubler-Ross talked about that. We are experiencing loss in this community and in this district because of funding, things that are outside of our control. I don't want to fix blame, I want to fix problems. I have to show up every day. I need to have a thick skin, probably more than anyone, and understand that my role is one where I need to shoulder accountability and hear what is being said. I want to echo my colleague, and I feel friendly to him, Sean Reardon, that this has been a time that has been emotionally significant for many because there is such change in the community. And I think we have to hold each other. I hope that's okay to say. I think we need to listen to one another, and I think we have to have compassion and resilience, and I think we have to have patience and forgiveness. I apologize that we're in the state we're in. I don't necessarily feel like it's my fault, but I do believe like it's my responsibility to continue to show up and try to do better and to keep trying to work at it. So thanks for the olive branch, and I give it right back to you. I want to show reciprocity to our CUTA and our CSEA bargaining unit members who are definitely inadequately paid, and we need to work together on that. And I just hope that we can take the time and keep breathing through it. I wish there was a quick fix. There is no quick fix, but I am here to continue listening, and I want to thank Ramon and Sean for that. You know, a lot of this has been said. The HEAL project had dinners. I was at Hatch and I was at Farallon View to see that, and that's so delightful. And there's a lot of work that we want to do in environmental literacy, and I look forward to that. I do want to remark that the Boys and Girls Club, their board, and I think I sent this out in a letter, has agreed to start looking at how they can begin to help us with the cuts and bring athletics and enrichment to Cunha next year, even if we might not be able to afford it. I want to thank Cabrillo Education Foundation for their night the other night, and Alas for their open house. There are going to be policy decisions ahead with budget cuts that will require us to do things differently. It is a moving target. We will have March and a better idea of the budget, and then there will be a May revise. And I always talked about this as a whiplash moment. Hopefully we can continue to move forward and stay open to possibility. There's lots of work yet to do, lots of listening required. We are required to do things differently. It's not over. We always said that the budget cuts would happen and then the next part would be harder. It requires a lot of emotional literacy from us. I'm going to close tonight by saying that we do have a contract to fix Cunha, of course, coming up. We do have a policy decision to explore on extended day kindergarten. Some people will feel one way or another about it. We made a commitment to explore it, and I wanted to make sure that we could get it in front of the union to have them look at the impacts contractually on it, and we do want to have dialogue on that. And finally, I think it's very important, Mike Alfano will be here tonight to talk about the bond and the oversight committee, but I also do think it's very important just to key in on the report you're about to hear from the Fiscal Crisis Management and Assistance Team. We did not call FCMAT in and contract with them. The county and AB 1840, really the state, required them to come and interview us. This can be a place of vulnerability too, where people feel like, are we doing it wrong? There are systems and structures we need to look at in this time to make sure we shore up our fiscal solvency. And this is an opportunity for us to get back into fiscal health and to look at why we are where we're at and to keep looking at improvement and continuous improvement. So with that, I want to close. I want to thank everybody for speaking tonight. I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. And I want to welcome John Von Flew from the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team for our presentation on the fiscal health risk analysis.
President Hines, Board of Trustees, Superintendent McFetridge, administration, staff, community members. My name is John Von Flew. Am I catching this right? My name is John Von Flew, and I'm a chief analyst with the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team. I want to give you a little bit of background. I'm here to talk about the report and the analysis that we did. I want to start off with giving you a little bit of background about FCMAT and about the genesis of this study. Talk about the study a bit, and then talk about where to go from here and our impressions as we met with the district and reviewed the district. So talking about FCMAT, Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team, we're an independent external state agency that works both inside and out of AB 1200 fiscal stability and fiscal oversight role. So AB 1200 is the legislation that strengthens fiscal oversight. We do primarily management assistance. About 70% of our work is management assistance. Fortunately, only 10% is fiscal crisis, and fortunately, 10% fraud. We like to keep those numbers low. It seems like in the last few years that they are on the increase. We also do preventive professional development, and that consists of about 10% of our work. We're there to help districts avoid fiscal instability and insolvency, and we think the best thing to do is to be involved and have well-trained leadership in doing so. So a little bit about AB 1200. AB 1200 was signed into legislation in 1991. FCMAT was originated in 1992, so shortly afterwards. And it's setting standards and criteria, and you've seen those when you've done your budget and interim reports that analyze on a periodic basis the district's budget, the fiscal status, and they use the first and second interim as the primary viewpoints. But that doesn't mean that there's always eyes on districts. We're there, the county offices are there to help maintain their solvency. So just as you hear with the students, with the response to intervention, multi-tiered systems of support, fiscal has the same type of thing. So first it's some guidance, it's some recommendations, but as it intensifies and as the concerns grow, there's a little bit more intervention and a little bit more intervention until, unfortunately, there's the potential of a takeover and loss of local authority. And that's what we're all trying to prevent, okay? Remember that AB 1200 is about fiscal solvency and sufficient funds to meet your financial obligations. We look at the current year and two years forward, and maintaining a financial reserve 3 years out, current plus 2, is the gauge that we look at. If you are not going to be able to make your commitments in the current year, that's called a negative certification or lack of going concern as well. Qualified certification, which the district has had for a while, is that there's a possibility you may not meet your reserves and your fiscal obligations. You know that this ultimately, the role of maintaining the fiscal stability of the district relies on the shoulders of the trustees who are elected to locally govern the district. In 1819, as Superintendent McFetridge mentioned, in the 1890 Budget Act, FCMAT's role was expanded. We were asked by the legislature to be more proactive. We were given a few dollars to do so, and part of that is this fiscal health risk analysis that we came to do. In the past, when we engaged with the district to do a review, it was either called on by the district, invited us in, or called on by the county or by the state and asked us to go in, at which case someone was picking up the bill. At this point, with the Budget Act, the legislature gave us an apportionment and said, under certain conditions, we want you to engage with the district and be a little bit more proactive in that. So not only did it make us proactive, but it also ensured accountability to the county office oversight. So it put the weight of their oversight on the county office as well to make sure that they were looking closely at districts. We use a tool and using indicators. Like I said, we've been around, FICMAT's been around since 1992. So over the course of the years, we've learned a few things. And so we've identified some things that are found in districts that are having fiscal stress. We use that and developed the fiscal health risk analysis tool. 20 different areas, 100 different questions to identify that we ask and to identify whether there's fiscal stress within the district. We asked this, we score it on a scale of 100. The higher the score, we like a golf score, you want a lower score. The higher the score, the higher the risk that we find. A low risk is under 25, 26 to 39 medium, and over 40 is a high risk. To trigger our engagement, a district has to have either unapproved budget, negative interim certification, 3 consecutive or more qualified certifications, a change of certification by the county office, or a determination of going concern we call a lack of going concern. A going concern is a good thing. That means you're able to meet your financial commitments. A lack of going concern or not a going concern is when you can't. So one of those is the trigger for us to come in and do our analysis. So now I'm going to go to specifically Cabrillo Unified. Cabrillo's been on the radar as a fiscal concern since the beginning of 1819. Had qualified, the budget for 1819 was conditionally approved. First interim was qualified, second interim was qualified. For 1920, the budget again was conditionally approved. So Cabrillo's been on the radar, we're watching. The county office has been providing oversight, and with the letters in response to the certification, been given guidance as well. In October, the San Mateo County office had identified Cabrillo as a lack of going concern. So kind of raised the bar there and it says, hey, we've got several conditions coming into play here. We're concerned. And subsequent to that, we all know that you also qualified your interim for first interim 1920 as well. So FICMAT, on response to the October letter of lack of going concern, in November we visited, we requested well over 100 documents from the district for us to review. And a team, myself and another FICMAT staff, came out and interviewed the district staff over a period of 2 days. The fiscal health risk analysis is a result of the documents review and the interviews that we had. Really, one thing that I want to say about the fiscal health risk analysis is a lot of times districts are working on certain things and addressing certain things, but with the fiscal health risk analysis, we're trying to find if there's any blind spots out there, if there's anything that the district is not paying attention to that maybe needs to be elevated in their concerns. So we try and look at several different things, not just what is the obvious concern that we find. The report, as submitted, you see it's printed, the district has printed out several copies. What we will end up doing is we will end up posting it on our FICMAT website, and likely the district will end up posting a link to it as well. It identifies several areas of fiscal concern. The goal of the report is not one to place blame or identify fault. So don't look through there to find out if we're trying to do that. But it's intended to identify areas of concern and provide the district some direction in how to address those issues. The analysis identifies the district to be of moderate risk of insolvency. When I say moderate risk, it's on the high end of moderate risk, and that is just a gauge. There were certain things that could easily, even if you're moderate risk, throw you into insolvency in a very easy misstep, but that's what the result of the analysis showed. And largely, it's because of the district's inability to maintain sufficient reserves due to forecasted deficit spending and a lack of plan to correct the trend. Okay, that was the big elephant in the room, if you will. But what's causing the trend? External factors are the largest piece. Your declining enrollment. Looked at reports in the 1990s, you were at 3,800 or so. This year, you're at 3130 something, and a drop of over 600 in the last 2 decades, and then or three decades, if you will, and then over the last 4 years or 3 years, excuse me, a decline of about 75. So it's been a more drastic decline. Also, there was a report that we saw that estimated that the decline in enrollment would continue to happen into the future. So the concern's not going away. We all know that there's rising costs and compensation. We all know that some of those are out of our control. We know PERS and STIRS are going up, and no one in here made that decision to affect that. But it is a burden to the district and an increasing cost for compensation. At the time of our review, we were the parcel tax was set to expire in June of 2020. So that was taken into consideration. You have to remember, we took a snapshot of this at budget in November. So before even the first interim, before some of the things were passed, I think the parcel tax extension passed right at the time we were coming in. Also, gap funding and the infusion of funds that we enjoyed over a few years ended. The target has been established, if you will, and the COLA adjustments are to increase your funding guarantee going forward for those districts that are state funded. Internally, so factors that found in the district, we found that compensation for staff exceeds the state average for the years reviewed. So we looked at 16 and 17 and 17 and 18, and the district, approximately 90% of expenditures in the district were on employee compensation. That compares to in the neighborhood of 86 and 87% for statewide average. And those are the latest numbers we have in 16, 17, 17, 18. So your compensation to employees as percentage of budget was more than what we found to be the norm in the state. Yet, in subsequent years, the district settled beyond COLA adjustment, beyond the adjustments to COLA that the district received in additional funding. And what I'll say to that is it shows your support to the employees of Cabrillo. It really shows that you are behind those employees, but it leads to other stresses on the remaining 10% of the budget. Other things that we found, there was concerns of lack of knowledge and communication and awareness of the budget situation, a tracking of cash flow issues, and a plan to address deficiencies. And largely, we believe that was attributed to the turnover in staff. There was a loss of institutional knowledge in staff. There was some uncertainties as to what numbers were good, and so that brought a lot of concern. So how do you make good decisions when you don't have confidence in the information you're getting? So, or even if it's good information, if you don't have confidence in it, how do you make those decisions? So further our observations and kind of getting a little bit away from the report in specific, we believe that the district, and this is at the time that we came in and immediately following, that the district is aware and acknowledging that it has a problem. This is the 12th district that we've been in the last year since we've been charged with this, and the majority don't want to acknowledge that they have a problem. I don't see that as an issue or the case here in Cabrillo. Definitely understand that you have a problem. Your risk score, again, is 38.7% based on the report. 39, anything above 40 is a high risk, so you're at the top end of the moderate risk as that's identified. I see support from the community. I've heard it here tonight as testimony to their support. I saw it with the passing of the parcel tax and the extension. I see that they have an understanding that you are that you are facing and continue to face difficult decisions. And those things are refreshing from my standpoint, that the community is aware and you're aware, and that there's action being taken to address these issues. So where do you go from here? Obviously, you need to live within your means. It's on every level. We believe that the district has reached its low, and usually that's what happens right at the time that the districts are triggered, that they've reached their low and they start plan to improve and progress. You will continue to have fiscal stress due to limited resources and revenues and increasing costs that continue to come. Those expenses are going to continue rising. You need to continue to work to increase efficiency and cost reductions. Staff needs to work closely together and with the county office. Again, I mentioned that they have an oversight responsibility. They're here to help. FCMAT is here to help, and hopefully that you find some value out of the report that we have. Partner with the county office, partner with one another, partner with us in your decisions, be transparent and cooperative. But you have to take action. I believe that, when I was here visiting before, we learned that there was a turnover in superintendents new to the district this fiscal year. CBOs new to the district. We have curriculum instruction new to at the beginning of the year. There's so much change, and now that those things are in place, we believe that you are in place to move forward. I congratulate you on the successful continuation of your partial taxes for an additional 8 years, and that's some great, but that is static dollars. I believe it's a static amount per partial tax, and so that is not going to increase for you, even though your expenses are continuing to increase. It's evident that the people in the community supported schools here. I commend you on approving a cost reduction resolution. I believe that was done in December. I entered that in the report, did not review it, and have not been monitoring the implementation other than hearing tonight that you've made some cuts. But I commend you for doing that and committing the district to a plan to keep its solvency. I'll remind you that the board is elected to lead the district. You must continue to act to maintain the fiscal solvency. If you don't, it will be the loss of local control, and that takes it completely out of the hands of you and the community. And I don't think that's in the best interest and for the betterment of the students in the community served by Cabrillo. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Before we have board questions, we had one parent, Nicole Smithson. If we could interrupt just a moment to let Nicole speak.
Sorry, thank you. So just a quick comment / question, since I know you can't actually answer me. I'm going to put it out there. With regards to the FCMAT report and the staff interviews, I'd like to know if the FCMAT made an attempt to contact the previous CBO for the district, since that position was vacant at the time of their interviews and had been vacant for some time. And does FCMAT do this as part of their investigation's best practices when district positions are vacant or have been vacant recently?
I'd like to respond to that question. When we come and do our analysis, we're looking at the condition of the district at that moment. So we're looking to see what the impressions, the perceptions are reality at the time. So it's not about previous staff coming back in to justify what they've done. It's not about placing blame on anyone. It's really about what is the status of the district at the time. So no, we did not reach out to prior staff, prior superintendent, prior CBO, or anyone that had been here during the time. We look at trends, so we do go back 2 years when we look at statistics and reports, but we don't go back to ask how people did things or what structures were in place at the time. We look at what structures are in place when we're there. So, does that answer your question? Yes.
I've got a couple questions. When you talk about the percentage of our budget that goes to salaries as compared to the rest of the state, do you have any numbers as how we compare to the county?
No, we don't. We have, we looked at, we look at reports that are compiled statewide, and we know that there's a statewide formula for revenue, for LCFF, that all districts are subject unless they're under basic aid revenues. So we look at, we feel the statewide is the best comparison to understand how much of a burden each component of your expenses are on your budget. With that, 90% of your budget in compensation, that leaves 10% of wiggle room, if you will, to address things that are outside. That's pretty much a standard. We're not looking at whether you're competitively compensating against neighboring districts, and that would be a different review, a different question. We also have an area here where you have a lot of basic aid districts, and the percentage may not be very applicable and a good comparison.
Okay. And one other question I had was, when you look at that percentage, are you, for the salaries, are you including stipends in that number as well, or is that just?
Yes, it's all 1,000s, 2,000s, and 3,000s, which are the certificated salaries, classified salaries, and benefits.
Mine is a little bit more, well, first off, thank you for coming in and doing this, although I wish you didn't have to.
Agreed.
The state would just give us more money and then we'd be here. But I appreciate the detailed report, and there's clearly kind of the call out of, the parcel tax failing us, the set costs going up, and state funding being relatively flat at this point, that have put us in this crisis. And I do think the parcel tax passing and the cuts that we're planning on making hopefully will get us on that sound foot moving forward. And hopefully with advocacy, the state will step up. I also did appreciate kind of some of the more detailed look at different parts of our program. And so I just want to kind of ask staff, we don't necessarily need to talk about it tonight, but at some point kind of address some of those discrepancies. And you're very new here, Jesus, so I really appreciate you coming in and trying to answer some of these questions. So if there's anything you can answer tonight about some of the other ones where we were kind of out of compliant that are kind of a little bit more, I think there was some of the payroll issues, our purchase orders, there was some information on our fraud system, other things that just kind of alerted me that at some point it would be great to have a more thorough report on how we're addressing those moving forward.
And to address some of that, we continued this partnership with FICMAT and with our County Office of Education, where we are looking in the systems that were depicted and the standards as depicted by FICMAT. And our goal is then to strengthen those systems and look for places where we could grow and improve and affirm those things that we are doing right, and look into improving those that with the support of our County Office of Education and FICMAT, of course. And as an example of that, for example, as you saw, some parts of the report is calling for some training, and we are already going to training with the San Mateo County Office of Education on budget development, which is something that we looked into the report on March 3rd. And we will continue that trend, as well as making sure that we look at this from systems perspective, and ensuring that we will be bringing to the board then what those specific actions will continue to be.
Also to complement that, what Mr. Contreras said, FICMAT has this as a self-assessment tool that we put on our website. As I said, it was developed over our history and our knowledge and learning as we went through. We're going to continue to update the tool. So as new issues arise or become evident in the school district that challenge fiscal solvency, we will add that to our tool so that districts can go in and do a self-assessment. I don't have a recommended frequency of that. I think doing it too often is really not giving you an opportunity to implement and improve. But our standard is we do not go into a district more than once a year. And right now, as we're looking at the different needs across the state, we've expanded that to, it's been a year and a half since we went into our first group. So, but anyway, that tool, we'll try and keep it up to date and relevant so that you can do a self-assessment on your district going forward, and hopefully it provides that value.
So was the rating, that numerical gauge, if you will, was that based on on just the budget and the ratios?
So the, as you look through the report, 20 different categories. Categories are rated as, and you don't see this is kind of behind the scenes, but we rate them as low impact, medium impact, and high impact. And each question also has a score with it. And so we accumulate all those scores, and because education, you always want to have a score, instead of, so know where you fit. So that's what we use. So there's certain questions that are, even though we don't mark it out because we want you to not be looking for, to test towards a score, but to actually answer the questions and look. But certain questions are weighted heavier than others, and the result of the scoring of that ended up to the 38.7.
Well, one of the things that I noted in the report, and I think you already touched on, that the district projects to deficit spend $1.7 million in the unrestricted general fund in this year. And I do realize that that was before our cuts, but our cuts aren't this year, they're next year. So we are deficit spending. And even though there is we've got the reserves and our unassigned reserves, it's that 3-year outlook.
Right.
So,
in that same, down in the next question, it's the subsequent years. It shows that deficit spend in 3.9 in 2021 and 3.8 in 21-22. That's where your reductions would reduce that and again hit in this subsequent years.
right, so we made $2.6 million in cuts, and our bond was how much? Partial tax, I'm sorry, 1.6. Yeah, we're not quite out of the red.
Well, I just would say too that we proposed actionable cuts. We have to take actions to make those cuts. So, and we also have to shore that up with new funding realities and changing economic conditions that we have going forward with the governor's budget, which will be a moving target. The COLA we saw from, I think, 1.79 to 2.29.
But it was originally 3 at the beginning and in the proposal before. So, yeah, moving target. You also have a continued decline in enrollment, which will impact as well.
So there are a lot of odds that, I don't want to say it that way, that are against us. There are a lot of challenges we still have to surmount in making cuts. We always said we would reevaluate cuts based on new funding realities. I know Mr. Contreras will be bringing a second interim in March, and we will look at some of those funding realities. And again, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, I'm hoping that our bargaining units will understand that we will want to take time to make sure that we look at what we can afford and that hopefully we can hold each other safe and be patient during that. But there is a lot we have to do because we are deficit spending, and in the out years we do go in the red and our reserves will fall below the 3% minimum.
I just had a question. I know we missed being in the high-risk category by a hair.
Well, and it's just a score because,
Well, so we're on the edge. Yeah. Would anything have changed if we had actually fallen into that category?
No, and that's the misnomer or concern about, and that we were looking at inside about identifying a risk level and putting a score. I will say that the document and the scoring process has not reflected the amount of risk in certain districts that we've seen. I was in a district that ended up having a very targeted issue that was of severe fiscal distress to them. And so just having a small targeted issue, it took them to a low risk. And it was not reflective of their true situation. So I don't, as you see our reports come out in the future, you'll see the summary move to the front versus behind the scoring, because we don't want you to necessarily get tied into the scoring. Does provide a roadmap, it does provide a checklist, it does identify areas, but the summary, we try and pull out those issues that are more worthy of attention and action.
To some of the things that Freya was noting and Jesus commented in terms of the payroll and purchase orders and fraud protection, what are those procedures? In my workplace, I've worked for large organizations, and each one has kind of a different culture of the documentation, how they manage those processes. So I'm actually confident that that's something that Jesus will put in place. So that to me isn't as worrisome, just because it's not there. It is like, why wasn't it? But I'm confident in that piece going forward. One of the things that, and I am appreciative of this many people in the room while we're having this conversation. I pulled the budget from last June, the more detailed budget, and I'm seeing how this is tracking. And when we talked about the budget last June, there was nobody in the room. When we talked LCAP, by the time you get to the end of the meeting, there aren't people in the room. So thank you for all those that stick it out and realize how important this is, and that we are trying to balance it. And the piece that I'm trying to hold is, as we make decisions, I'm hoping that it's not just thumbs up, thumbs down on line items, but that we look at it holistically. Because if we don't, when does these efficiencies and cost reductions in our budget impact the students? We have to keep a mind on what are those foundational elements that need to be in place, to make the corrections that Leticia was talking about last month. So I'm hoping that everyone here, as we hear that, knows that we're trying to look at it holistically. I have a question. Because all of the salaries get lumped together in one line item, that 90% of our budget. In your experience, FICMAT, looking at all these different districts, do you ever look at, or have you been asked to look at, the ratio between like credentialed staff and teaching staff and the schools and administration? And I will also say, I know that our administration, in terms of the things that we have going on in office, there are many pieces that are quite labor intensive because there are many demands that come down from the state. And so we have programming that is beyond K through 12 classroom with the preschool program and migrant programs and special ed. We have a lot of other pieces that take heavy lifting. So I'm not criticizing that, but I want to understand, in a declining enrollment school, ratio-wise over time, what should our balance be? And so in declining enrollment, when do we have to tighten everything up?
You're asking a question that, and I'm going to confess I can't give you an answer, and here's why. With local control, you have within the solvency parameters, you have the decision, you can make the decision to staff at any given level that you want, that you think best fits the needs of your district. There's not, I've been in a lot of districts and there's no two alike. They have different needs, they have different, they're educating different student populations, they have different numbers of students at different grades, identified as English learners, there's low income kids. I mean, there's no two districts alike. There's also districts that in certain areas that can pay less and still attract workforce, they are composed very much differently. The FICMAT studies that we've done in regards to this, what we do is we try and find similar districts. It could be districts that you're competing against for staffing. We always are, this is our neighboring district, and we're always juggling, that's our comparative is as far as staffing compensation. It may be other unifieds of the 3,100 enrollment range. But it's not fair to take Cabrillo at a unified at 3,100 with a 6,000 elementary school in the Central Valley. You're not going to get a good comparison. So we have to get to that level so we can find a good comparison in order to do that. I don't have those figures right off the top of my head, but that's the direction we would go to look at those staffing comparisons, not only in staffing levels, but maybe in compensation levels as well.
Sean, one of the things I think that might help, you and I had some one-on-one time, and I know that there were, I don't know if it was some articles or what the catalyst was, but we were looking at what the teacher pay, the average, was in all of the districts in our area. And I'm wondering if we couldn't bring forward not just what the teacher pay is, because it's obviously lower, but I think what relates to the FICMAT and how we have to right size, try to balance these things, is like a spreadsheet that would give like the cities the teacher pay and then what the funding levels are. So I'm just thinking visually, because we're looking at it in isolation, and I know it's not about comparing to Burlingame or Palo Alto, but I'm thinking maybe these would be some tools that could be advocacy points that we can work with our community and state.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I think, and I've said this before and sort of advocated for the need for a larger parcel tax in the community. I've been clear about that. A progressive parcel tax, it's a per square foot parcel tax, because in my mind, my hunch is that your parcel tax is lower than other communities. Your local revenue is lower, your state revenue is lower, and so you have declining enrollment. I do think that Jesus and I have talked about bringing a comparison, because I was looking at data from California Department of Education on average teacher compensation, and I did crunch the numbers on the county, and I'd like that to be transparent and forward, so that we can have the discussion with the community about how we compare to other districts. I've heard Heidi and Ramon and Sean talk, I think, about where we stand. I think it's important for us to look at that standing, and then to compare that to our per pupil revenue, which is changing in this district, and also to our parcel tax revenue. So I think those are important things, and Jesus and I would certainly be happy to bring that back.
Related to parcel tax, though, I'm wondering, given the overall demographics, having a parcel tax in a heavily populated, like single household, lots of properties, if that money doesn't go further, like ratio-wise, then it would in our locale, because we don't have that many.
So that's also information that we could bring forward and look at the taxable properties and square footage. I've had this conversation with many people in the community who say, I have a larger home than this person, I should pay more tax. That is a progressive tax. It's something we could look at. It's certainly something that the board would have to deliberate on. I've heard from a colleague in the audience that we're not ready to do it yet, but at some point I think we just have to keep saying what if and look at the ideas. I do think a flat parcel tax is not fair to smaller homeowners. I think a per square foot tax, I'm just going to advocate for that. You need to have more revenue if you want to be able to spend more money. That's the bottom line. What you hear in the FICMAT report is that you are dedicating a lot of dollars to compensation for employees. You're going to need more dollars to continue to do that if you're going to stay solvent. I think that is the push that we need to take. I think that's the push that a lot of districts in the county have taken and in the Bay Area have taken. Taxpayers may not like it, but if it were more progressive and seemed more fair, it might be something the board would consider. But of course, I can advocate for it, I can make the recommendation, but I serve at your pleasure and you'll have to consider it.
Along those lines, so we're looking at, wanting to give teachers a raise, but we're spending a higher proportion of our money than other places in the state to do that. I kind of feel like, and this is more probably a question for you, Sean, I want to see where we're at. Is there any way we can see a range of what the salaries are? I mean, I know we can't, and I just mean for our district, it's hard to compare for the Hill because they're getting more. Can we see a range? And also, I'd be interested in seeing a range, not hooked to anyone, but just seeing what everybody's making, and then also seeing what the actual step and column raises, like maybe an average that employees are getting this year, just so I know where we are.
So I know
ground zero, I guess.
Yeah, I know my friend Jesus is keeping notes on this because I think in the next board presentation in March, and certainly if we were to have a open conversation in a special meeting, a workshop meeting, where there could be questions and answers, I think we need to provide the data. I think the reason why we have misunderstanding and we are misunderstood is because we take for granted that people know this or people don't know this. I know there's been some talk recently in social media about compensation. I get it. I think it's important for us to bring the facts to the table and let people see it and then say what would be the solutions to that. We can certainly bring the salary schedules. We can certainly show how people are paid. We can certainly show what the trends have looked like over time, over the last decade, and what that would be, what would we aspire to going forward, and what it would take to aspire to that.
And I assume all that data would be blinded for the rate, the different salaries.
It's a chart, it's a step.
Yeah, we have a step and column salary.
No, beyond that though. I mean, we can get the step and column on the website.
It'd probably be easier for us to post it and to bring it to a presentation and walk through it.
But I'm thinking more like to see like how many people are on the low end of it, how many people are in the high
Oh,
end.
well, we could bring a scattergram to show who is on the low end of the salary
And
schedule.
that'd be blinded, you wouldn't see names.
No, we would always redact because HR laws would require us to redact information because we wouldn't want to let individuals be shown to the community what the specifics were, yeah.
And then also like an average, like what is the average?
Sure, yeah, and
Is that
again,
possible?
I've done that sort of crunching of what the San Mateo County average pay is, and it is true that we are, of the 20-odd districts that were reporting, 3 didn't report as of 18-19. We were in the bottom 5. We've heard from other people that they think we're second to last. That's not the data that I have, but I don't want anybody to take my word for it or take anybody's word for it. I'd like to provide that data and show where we got that and show our source.
I'm not talking about average salary though, I mean average raise that employees, that teachers are getting this year on the step and column. Can we get to that number?
Yes, we can show you how much the step and column, part of our figures is every year we have to say how much are teachers making on the step and column and what does that increase as an expense. We can show that as well as over time actual raises on top of the schedule.
So it would be like an average raise for the step and column.
We could produce the data as to how much they are making and then what step and column would look like and the scattergram that would depict that.
Again, I think it's important for us to, and I think this goes to John's point too. This is a snapshot. The FCMAT report is a snapshot in November of practices, not of people. I would like us to depersonalize this and make it about practices, systems, structures. And what's great about the FCMAT report, it's like a dose of medicine. It's like going to the doctor and saying, hey, we need to work on this area. And that's what we will do. We aspire to build systems and structures, whether it's based on School Services of California, FCMAT, our county office friends, CASBO, the California School Business Officials. We will be looking at best practices. This will take years to build that muscle memory, to know what to do, to know the right thing to do, and then to do it.
One thing I want to think, maybe it's not a good reason that you did this report, but it definitely, as a board member, it helps me because there are a lot of financial things going on, and until I had this report and read all the questions, I wouldn't know what to ask. So it was extremely helpful. One of the things that resonated with me in some of the questions was the lack of inclusive communication with department heads and the transparency about the budget and the way it's being spent. So now that I heard our new CBO talk about, going to trainings and just working with everybody, it's very, there's a lot of communication. So I'm very, I think it's great to see this and also know that the people that are working are very transparent and we communicate very well. So.
And just a reminder that, we were here in November, so that when you say, they weren't aware, the CBO had been gone for a little bit. They could be, that's what they were saying at the time. Had we asked this question back in March or something of last year, likely a very different answer. Take a snapshot at the time we were here. Okay. If I may,
Sure.
I know I wasn't invited to come in. As we said, it was the legislature triggered this and we were coming in, but as we were talking about before being welcome, the district was very welcoming to us, open to us, engaged in working with us, responsive to our requests. I never felt at any point that we weren't invited in. So I want to thank you for that. And I also want to say is this discussion you had just now, if that was at all triggered by this report, that is exactly what we want to happen. So thank you for that, and I hope that continues, and I wish you well.
Yeah, it's very helpful. It's very helpful.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fluke.
Our next item on the agenda is the presentation on extended day kindergarten. We do have a couple of speakers or questions. Let's do those first and then do the presentation. We have Misty Veloso, Erica Crine, thank you, sorry, and then Justin Stockman. Come on out.
I feel like I drew the short straw today. Well, I guess I'm here to kind of talk just real quick a statement about communication. I did last board meeting speak up about that, and just a little bit here today after meeting with my colleagues to ask that we be included in the conversations that are going to take place. We're not really quite sure what's happening, so we tried to organize ourselves. Today was the first day that we met, and being a senior member of the K staff, I've taught kindergarten for 22 years, and there's always been an extended day program. When I started, I was hired as a PM kindergarten teacher back in the day. And then about 15 years ago, because of a strategic plan, extended day was kind of put on the table by administration. So kindergarten teachers gathered and we came to district administration and we basically met them halfway with a plan, which was to basically standardize the K program across the district. So we did, and that went on until most recently when Mr. Rourke was our superintendent, and he came to us again and said, we'd like to provide more for the kids. What is it that you value? So again, the K teachers got together and basically communicated clearly what we valued was our small group instruction. It's not that we don't want to work a longer day, it's that the demands for kindergarten are pretty high, and it's hard to meet those needs with 24, possibly 25 kids in a classroom. Sometimes with TK kids running around and sometimes with first graders in the room. So the programs have always kind of been able to balance. And so he said, well, how about we have this cupcake club, which has kind of been a practice at El Granada and at Fair Lawn View. But I think what we have always valued is when the conversation has been brought up by district people, that we were voices that were heard, and the process was very collaborative, and I think in the end, something was created that was respected by both sides of the table. I think you might be surprised to sit with us and hear what we have to say about it, positively. But we do have things that we feel we need to protect in order to make our programs work, because we don't always have a pure kindergarten classroom. We do struggle with splits, and that's a huge issue for us. So I think I just wanted to share with you some past practice and hope that we can get together collaboratively and create a program that meets the needs for the district, but as well for the needs of our kids. So.
I'm the one that's a terrible public speaker, so here I am. And my name is Erica Krein, and I'm thrilled to say that I'm a kindergarten teacher at El Granada, and I crazy love what I do. And I've seen the extended day kindergarten line in the budget presentations and at board meetings that I've been to, but I guess I just kept naively thinking that we would be contacted about these ideas or feedback or input and just not to worry about it and focus on all the other things I had to worry about, like mainly like, can I still afford to live here? Where am I going to move? All those things, because I'm a single person and it's really hard to make it here, even though I've been in this for 20 years. And so anyways, back to the kindergarten. I'm hearing there's a proposed small committee with a TKK first, second, third grade teacher reps, and that's what I heard through the bargaining, I think. And so that's 5 teachers, but potentially only 2/5 of that, or 10%, with direct knowledge of the TKK program, or with the day-to-day experience or the current research and specific understanding of what TK and K is like. There's 10 TK and kindergarten teachers currently in our district, and only selecting 2 for that committee means that not all the schools are represented, and only 20% of our district team of TKK teachers are represented. And I really implore you to right-size this idea. Please consider letting our voices and experience be shared. And having taught kinder through 5th grade myself, kindergarten requires very specific and special skills and strategies. They basically never stop moving. They're curious little sponges who adore everything, and every day is their best day in their life ever. And you're the most favoritist person in their life. But it's something that really not everyone can do. There's a lot of specific challenges, a lot of prep, a lot of planning and expertise and special training, and there's a whole group of memes about there's no tired like kindergarten teacher tired. We had a long field trip and long meetings today, so I am that person today. And I am a total dork for education. I went to a 3-day kindergarten conference this year. We learned about the importance of play, engagement, safety, social emotional well-being as foundational skills for our kids. And at our recent district in-service, which I loved, by the way, the presenter emphasized the importance of a strong TKK program and especially the effectiveness of early intervention in TK through 2nd grade. She also cited current research supporting less academic testing and noting the inherent difficulties and the time commitment that this takes with our youngest children. And she cited the importance of a systematic phonics and phonemic awareness program. She also cited a focus on social emotional learning, PBIS, and small groups as indicators for increased success for all of our students, especially our most at-risk students. And I thought to myself, hooray, these are all the things that I care about. These are all of our parts of our already high-quality TKK program that we've been implementing and advocating for. And we really believe in our beginning of the year transition time for kids to support the social, emotional needs and to build their endurance. We also have worked on a rollout with this Wilson Foundations, which is a curriculum for the phonemic awareness and phonics. And it needs more training and materials to be for everyone because it's a little spotty right now, but those that I've talked to, including myself, have really been enjoying it and seeing its effectiveness for all of our students. These beginning foundational years are really important for our youngest students, and one of my proudest moments is on our kinder tours, when you have the nervous, worried parents, they're always like, how do you do it? Looking around the room, how do you do it? How do you reach everyone's needs? There's so many of them. What are you doing? Like, I don't understand, because it looks overwhelming, even though everyone's on task and doing the right thing, and they're kind of in on the best possible scenario. But I'm proud to explain our wonderful kinder program, that we have a slow rollout, that we care about our students. I'm so tired. And that we can help them build confidence and comfort and feel safe and to have skills, and that we can supplement that with a late fall cupcake club that has an emphasis on small group support. And no matter if their child needs challenges or extensions, or if they need a special help or support, that they'll be seen and they'll be heard, and we'll have time for them to get to know them as children. And so please help us continue this quality program. Ask for our advice. Hear our expertise, and don't hate me when I leave out after the kindergarten presentation, because kindergartners can sense weakness. And I'm very tired. And it's Valentine's Day tomorrow and the day before the break, and they are going to be on the ceiling. So I will need all of my things. So I care about what you have to say after this presentation, but I'll have to look it up later.
I will be brief. I mentioned earlier we just had another kid. I have 4 kids. It's too many kids. How somebody is in a classroom with 20 plus kids 5 days a week for half a day is insane to me. My twin 5-year-olds are in TK with Miss Mills. We went to our first conference with her not too long ago, and I was blown away, right? Like, I go into this conference and I'm thinking, okay, what is she gonna say? You know, it's gonna be some chat, and we know her, she's a family friend, she's an incredible person, but I'm thinking with 20-something 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, how much can you get done? I was blown away by what she had to say, the amount she knew about my kids. I live with them every other hour of the day, and I can't teach them anything, you know? They just make a mess and yell at me. And so I guess what I'm up here to say is listen to your teachers, listen to your students. You're here, I'm a big believer in something called servant leadership, and that's the idea that the higher you move up in an organizational chart, and you as the board, as I mentioned in the beginning of tonight, you are the top. Your job is to enable the people below you to do their jobs. And to be able to do that, you have to listen to them. The most concerning part for me with this FICMAT analysis is not the rating, it's not any individual budget or point other than 2.6. And 2.6 says, based on interviews with district staff, FICMAT found that the CBO developed the budget with minimal input from the district departments. That's really bad. That's really bad. And I know we've had some turnover. I know there's some issues there. But you got to find a way to listen to them. They know what they're doing. You're way up at this high level. You need that detail from them. So please listen to them. I very much, for us this year, it was a question of, do we put our kids in TK or do we do another year of preschool? And we almost did another year of preschool. A big selling point for my family was the flexible short day. If we were talking about putting my twin 5-year-olds, especially my little boy, in school from 8 o'clock in the morning till 1 or 2 in the afternoon, they would be in private preschool right now, and the district would be losing additional funds. So this is going back to, we've got a lot to get done. We need every dollar we can get. Listen to them, listen to the community. The other thing is engage the kids. Thank you.
We should have a motion to extend the meeting.
A motion to go past 10?
Yes.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Meh. Yes. Freya.
Oh yeah, is there the PowerPoint?
Good evening, President Hines, board members, cabinet, CUTA, CSEA, and community. And I just want to thank the teachers that did come up to speak because we are listening to you, and just to let you know, this is only an informational presentation, and the plan is to form a pre-K through 3 group to continue to explore how we can better provide services. I'm here today to just give this informational meeting regarding extended day kindergarten. Okay. And after the presentation, we will all learn a little more around extended day and the difference between partial, extended, full day kindergarten, both local and state policy. We'll give some facts around kindergarten, extended day kindergarten, not only in California, but across the United States, the benefits of extended day kindergarten, as well as provide you an overview with our current kindergarten schedules, as well as next steps. So as per our most recent equity adoption policy 0415, which was discussed at the retreat, as mentioned by President Hines, I want to read you a portion of the policy. Board policy states, our district will eliminate disparities in educational outcomes for students from historically underserved and underrepresented populations. The district shall proactively identify class and cultural biases, as well as practices, policies, and institutional barriers that negatively influence student learning, perpetuate achievement gaps, and impede equal access to opportunities for all students. Now, using the same equity lens, I would like to engage all our stakeholders in really taking a look at these disparities. Now, when reviewing the instructional engagement of students from economically advantaged versus economically disadvantaged students, we have some families that could afford a 3-hour kinder program, and they go home and they receive enrichment activities because families can afford this. But when we're looking at equity and our families that may not be able to afford this, they don't receive the same level of social and academic engagement. So here is the local and state policy from California Assembly Bill 197. And so I'm not going to read everything, but about a year ago, there was a full day kindergarten program policy that went to the state of California. Now, I did want to clarify the difference between partial, extended day, and full day. Partial day means instruction for a minimum of 36,000 minutes per year. This is approximately 3 hours. I'm sorry, I have a cold. A full-day kindergarten program is a program that meets the top number of instructional minutes in a K through 5 program. Most likely it's going to be the 5th grade instructional minutes. Extended day is somewhere in between. Now, this bill was not looking at extended day, but it was looking at full day. And so, keeping in mind that what we're exploring here at Cabrillo is extended, so somewhere between partial day and full day. And later on, I am going to clarify that I'm guessing it's a hybrid of a partial and extended day program that we have at different sites, and I'll clarify that in a second. And as you can see, for Assembly Bill 197, overwhelmingly, we had state assembly members that voted. 61 had a yes vote on the bill, 15 had no, and 3 had a no vote. However, Governor Newsom fully supported this bill, but unfortunately, because it would impose some new costs outside of the state budget to those districts that may not have the facilities or may have to increase the instructional working day of a TK or kindergarten teacher, this is what caused Governor Newsom not to sign the Assembly bill. Okay. The next policy is Admin Regulation 6112. And this is our current Cabrillo Unified School District. And it does state in our policy that kindergarten and transitional kinder classes in the district schools may be maintained for different lengths of time, either at the same or different school sites. Now, in any district school operating an early primary program pursuant to Ed Code 8970 and 8974, the kindergarten school day may exceed 4 hours, excluding recess, if both of the following conditions are met. The governing board has declared that the extended day kindergarten program does not exceed the length of the primary school day. So that translates to we cannot give more kindergarten instructional minutes than 5th grade. And the extended day kindergarten program includes ample opportunity for both active and quiet activities within an integrated, experiential, and developmentally appropriate educational program. Okay, that's a little bit of our school day policy. Now, the California Department of Education's most recent study on extended day kindergarten facts, we noticed that between 2000 and 2008, which is the most recent study across California, there was double the increase of full-day kindergarten classes across the state of California, in particular because of the equity issue and the gaps in literacy that we're seeing not only here at Cabrillo, as we presented last board meeting, but across the state of California. But in particularly, we saw even more significant gaps in literacy that caused at the time, now we have new data, not from CDE, but from the National Education Foundation, that currently we have 70% of school districts offering full-day kindergarten, and in particularly, if you see the graph to the right, you will see that school districts that have a high percentage of English learners, a high percentage of vulnerable groups of students like Hispanic, Latino, Blacks, students that come from economically disadvantaged families, districts have pushed and gone forward with a full-day kindergarten program. Now here are just some overall kindergarten facts. About 2/3 of U.S. kindergarten children do attend a full-day kindergarten class. Full-day kindergarten has been more common in school districts that have a higher percentage of economically disadvantaged students. Keeping in mind that here at Cabrillo,
we have about 50% of economically disadvantaged students. It's much higher than our English learner population. We have 55% Hispanic Latino students who also are duplicated students into other subgroups. Based on the more recent data, as I mentioned earlier, there are 70% full-day programs and 30% part-day programs across the state of California. And here are some benefits of extended kindergarten. It definitely has, there's research out there that has proven to increase student achievement, result in healthier, happier children. It is cost-effective because currently we do have our staff that is full-time and we're not adding additional staff. There is, however, and I from curriculum instruction will be suggesting and involving our pre-K through 3 advisory committee in determining what are some additional resources that we may need when our students do get additional instructional time. The data has shown that it better prepares our students for first grade and is preferred by teachers and parents. Now, I did want to share, when looking through the lens of equity, we recently engaged with a high school taking a look at the placement of our English learner students. Almost 95% of English learner students at the high school have been in our schools since kindergarten. And so we are trying to make sure that we not only set up safety nets at the secondary level, but be more proactive instead of reactive, starting in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. And this is the reason that we want to engage a pre-K through 3 program. As we've engaged with MTSS, all means all, and all means all is the community. We're lucky here at Cabrillo that we have such amazing community members, and it's kindergarten and addressing this literacy gap shouldn't only fall on the shoulders of our pre-K, TK, kinder teachers. It is something that we need to address as a community, pre-K through 12th grade, and as a group make decisions on how we can provide additional resources, training that is needed to really close the achievement gap that our data has demonstrated. And thank you, Dr. Wade, for providing some of this data from Palo Alto Unified School District. They also engaged in taking a look at moving from a partial day to extended day, and this is some of the research, this is most recent research from 2016, and as you can see, these are schools not only from San Mateo County, also from Santa Clara County, and there are 46% of school districts that have a full day kinder program, 31% that have extended day, and 23% that have a partial day program. Now, I'm not going to go into the small details of the individual schedules because I know the community and the board has had time to take a look at the 4 different site schedules. But as Marzano says, a guaranteed and viable curriculum. Guaranteed means a guaranteed instructional day and a guaranteed set of instructional minutes that we provide to every single child, no matter where they are in our schools. And we can see here in our 4 different elementary schools, we have different types of kindergarten programs in different levels of extended day. Some sites that are offering 2 days of extended day when looking at the student day, not our teacher day, and some sites that are offering 5 days of extended day. And when we look through the lens of equity and look at more of a systemic approach, we see that there are differences in the number of instructional minutes across our different programs as well as different elementary sites, and it ranges between 34,000 to 47,550 at Kings Mountain. With this being said, and again, this is I'm not we are new here, and after doing some research, we are not at the level of the state mandate of 36,000 instructional minutes for students, and that we do with the support of our group of our committee, is figure out how can we increase that and possibly even match Kings Mountain, where our top performing students are receiving the most number of instructional minutes at 46,550 minutes. What are our next steps? And so I know that Maestra Foster mentioned, and I already have her as number one on our committee. And again, I just want to repeat here that this is only informational, and we are going to form a pre-K through 3 advisory committee, and I gave you that example that this is a system and we are a family, and we need to address the literacy gaps as a group. It shouldn't only fall on the shoulders of our pre-K and kinder teachers. And so the first step is to form this committee and meet 3 to 4 times between now and the end of school to really define what is our kindergarten instructional program, looking at both academic and social supports, define what the learning goals are for our students, and very important is determine what additional curriculum instruction, social and emotional resources we need to define a consistent extended day program across all our 4 elementary sites. And our goal would be to implement an extended day schedule after the formation of our advisory committee and come back to the board with a recommendation for the 2020-21 school year. Because we can't wait to make changes when we know that our students are here sitting in our classrooms now. And I do want to say that we do value the input of our staff, and know that together we can really close this literacy gap and provide that best foot forward to every single student that enters our school district. Do we have any questions?
I got a question. So whatever you decide to implement with the staff, would there still be an option for, say there is kids that can't handle that kind of a schedule, that
yes,
that
definitely.
there could be, different plans being made for kids that need it, that might need to go home earlier?
And again, these decisions won't be made in isolation, but definitely with the advisory committee, but studying Palo Alto Unified School District and other local school districts that, because again, 70% of school districts in California are offering full day. We're looking at extended day. We're not looking at matching our kindergarten minutes to 5th grade. But yes, all the districts do offer that option to parents, that if the parent feels that a full day program is not as beneficial to a child because of developmental readiness or social emotional readiness entering a school, a parent can opt out and keep a child at the minimum number of instructional minutes for students at 36,000 minutes per year, which it would be a partial day, a half day program.
I'll see if I can form sentences. It's after 10 o'clock. Thank you, Leticia. I really appreciate the presentation, and I certainly respect our kindergartner teachers in the district. I have a bit of an advantage of knowing my children as young adults now. I didn't run for the board until my kids graduated. And I do remember talking with the kids' kindergartner teachers, and that over time, that feeling like they had to treat it more like 1st grade rather than kindergarten. And I'm wondering, how you see that full, does this mean butts in the seats and pencils in the hand, or is it a nod to actually more of that foundational component that kindergartners really need? And what about the kids that need rest or a nap in the middle of the day? Can you talk to some of those pieces?
Well, definitely, the research does state that we need to balance academic and social emotional development. We would definitely take those two items into consideration as we develop a kindergarten schedule. And again, studying local districts when shifting from whether it's partial day to extended day, and in our case, we do have a hybrid of partial and extended day. We would definitely ask our experts, our champions that are on the ground for literacy, our kindergarten and TK teachers, to help us develop the instructional day, how they thank you, Misty, I know you said that we have probably experienced, like teachers that have been teaching in kindergarten for over 20 years. We would defer to them to help advise us, not only with what the research states, of what those instructional minutes look like throughout the day, including rest, playtime, social emotional development, and as we engage through MTSS, looking at the whole child is ensuring that that we provide all supports to ensure our kids are successful when they enter our schools.
My last item is a little bit anecdotal, but I remember, see, for me, both my husband and I worked full-time, and it was a child care situation after kindergarten at the private school next door at Wilkeson that picked the kids up, and in that first couple of weeks, my son was falling asleep at the picnic table right after kindergarten because he wasn't used to the schedule and he was missing the nap. He adjusted. That transition into kindergarten, for my kids, having grown up in a child care center, was actually a relatively easy one. And had they gone to a full day, they wouldn't have noticed the difference because they were already living that, assuming there's that rich variety in cognitive experiences and play and socialization. So that worries me a little less, but I do understand that passion in the middle of a decision like that. If you've got little kids, I remember some of my friends who were stay-at-home moms in absolute tears, and I didn't go into tears until Cunha, because between 5th grade and Cunha, I didn't know where my kids were going to be after school for the first one. So that was when I had my meltdown. But I mean, we each have those. I want to just be mindful that we each have those reactions to different touch points as our kids are growing up. And so we are a family.
Thank you for the presentation, and also thank you for the teachers who came and stayed for this long and spoke. And I have a full confidence that as we move forward that it's not yet a set plan and that the teachers' input, all of them, will be heard in this process.
I just wanted to go back to my comment before about if kids could go home if they're not doing well at the full day. Would they have to have like an IEP or a special plan in place, or would it be a deal set up between the teachers and the student, or maybe it's yet to be determined?
We would treat modification of a school day the same way we would for K through 12. I'm pretty sure that's what I've done in the past when I was a principal. Sometimes it happens that there might be a second grader that needs, or a first grader that couldn't adjust to the first grade schedule. And so through the student study team process, we would take each individual student and determine what is the best solution and support system for that particular student at the times. So we wouldn't differentiate the process between TKK. It's the same process that we would use through student study team.
I want to thank you, Dr. Patia, and I want to thank the teachers who showed up, and it was always our intention to announce this, explore this, and start the committee. I will also say I appreciate Mr. Stockman's sharing that of his values, but I also know that I've heard from many families that this is a struggle for them. So I think that's what we have to listen to, is to all kinds of different people, and if we can give options to families to either have an extended day or to have a partial day, I think that's important.
Next on the agenda is the appointment of the governing board representatives for 2020.
Can I introduce this real quickly?
Sure, go ahead. Okay.
So in past years, the board has had numerous representative functions, and the board at their retreat made a commitment that they would try to narrow these, and several committees and assignments came up. I just want to explain for the public, the City District 2+2 Committee typically is the board president and one other board member and represents the district in our relations with the city of Half Moon Bay. The Career Technical Education Advisory Committee is one that we put on there because we think that John Nazar is still here. We think that it would be good for board members potentially to join the CT Advisory Committee so we could make sure that we support career technical education, which we all have a value in. The Environmental Sustainability Committee has been mentioned by Freya numerous times. There's a lot of work we need to do in this district to improve our environmental literacy efforts curricularly and also procedurally. There's a lot we need to do with waste diversion, composting, recycling that we need to do. Visual and Performing Arts Committee, you've heard a lot from President Hines about this issue, and we do want to have a Visual and Performing Arts strategic plan starting next year. Financial Advisory Committee, we want to resurrect that and keep that going, partly because of the FCMAT recommendations, but partly because that work was underway under our former CBO. The District English Learner Advisory Committee is something that we've talked about, particularly Lizette, we've talked about that, about how we need to do better by our English language learners. We went into differentiated assistance as a district because of the gaps in that. And then the California School Boards Association Legislative Action Representatives, you've heard that Kim and Freya have worked on that with me in talking to Mullen, Hill, Berman, and others, and California School Boards Association. So this is really an opportunity for the board to discuss where they would like 2 representatives each for these committees.
Okay, we'll just go down through the list. City District, if that's normally the president and one other person, is there another person who would like to do that?
Well, I was on that, and we only had one meeting, so I wouldn't mind continuing with that,
Okay.
because we just started it. So I
Okay.
wouldn't mind continuing with that to see it through past my one meeting.
The Career Technical Education Advisory Committee.
Remember, we do have to save something for Sophia, but she also expressed interest in the Financial Advisory Committee, so we can always change if we need to.
Yeah. And we can do 2. Yeah, yeah, we will do 2. Anything, just looking down the list, call out what you're interested in.
We'll put Freya environmental.
Oh, yes.
And then put you on the
Are you interested in that?
VAPA.
No, sorry. The environmental sustainability? Are you between that one or the career technical education?
Hey, but I got visual and performing arts too.
Yeah, you're doing that one. I'd like to do the legislative.
I'll continue with the legislative.
Kim and Freya said they'll do legislative.
Okay, so I just want to point out that we've got 2 members on appearing 3 times already, so just save something for Sophia. I think she wants to be in that Financial Advisory Committee.
I put
We got
Sophia
her
on.
down.
Yeah.
We got her down for that. What
Yeah.
what else does she want? Do you know?
Is that you want the English language?
Speak up, you guys. They can't.
Okay. We've got Lizette on the District English Learner Advisory Committee.
Now, we can always bring this back at the next meeting when Sophia is here if you want to wait.
Yeah. I mean, I put Sophia on the financial, because I know she was interested there. I mean, do we need 2 on each one?
You do
Or-
not.
Pardon? You don't need 2? Okay. Because what we can certainly do is, like, when we have some of these other committee things, as people are available, we can rotate you know, we can always, I mean, it's like we have one person on point, other people can participate.
So should we leave it as it is with Kim and Mary Beth on the City District 2+2, Freya on the CTE Advisory, Freya on Environmental Sustainability, Kim on Visual and Performing Arts, Sophia on Financial Advisory?
Add me to that one.
On which, financial?
Financial.
Very good. And District ELAC, the DLAC, Lizette, and we'll leave a space there. And we can bring this back at the next meeting if you'd like to discuss it then.
Okay, thank you much.
Thank you.
Next item are our consent items. Do I have a motion to approve? And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. So,
If it has passed, I just want to acknowledge our partnership with the Red Cross, and they're in here, and for that agreement that you just approved. And should you have any questions?
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we had someone to speak to something on consent.
And we appreciate you guys staying so long, very important partners to us. And just to explain that, we've been working with our National Red Cross representatives to make sure that our schools and our gyms and our facilities could be used in case of emergency or for shelter. I greatly appreciate the work that the Red Cross does. If you guys want to say something, you certainly could take a time.
Well, I don't think I need the mic, but just
for the recording. It's for the TV. Because you got to be on TV.
Yes.
You waited this long. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a button here or something?
There's a little face.
All right, great. Thank you. So we really appreciate your opening up the district to our shelter program. And in the event of a large disaster, our shelters are very, very important. And it just seems like that disasters are becoming more and more serious. We all know about the fires up north, and a lot of our San Mateo volunteers went up there. But the way you welcomed us in and the cooperation we've had from you guys, we really, really appreciate what you've done. So thank you so much.
Thank you for what you do for the community. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
If I may, real quickly for the board too, you did just approve the Independent Energy Advisory Services Agreement submitted by Center for Sustainable Energy for the public. That is bond funded, and it is a way for us to make good on energy efficiency, solar energy, water conservation, electrical conservation in the district, hopefully to be able to free up operational funding. It is within the language of the bond, but I wanted to call that out that they just approved that.
Next up is the receipt and acceptance of Measure M Facility Bond Citizens Oversight Committee 2018-19 annual reports.
And we want to welcome Mike Alifano. Sorry, Mr. Contreras, I jumped the gun. But Mike, thank you for staying this long too, and for being a member of this.
No problem.
And Jesus probably wants to welcome you too.
And I do, thank you.
So, and we just officially met, even though we've talked via email. So first off, thank you for what you all do. Staff, obviously, having 2 kids in the system now, being a product of the school system, and seeing it come full circle, it's pretty cool. And it means a lot to me to see people from our community in your positions, and to have such great staff. It's something that all I can do is say thank you, and look at my kids and the rest of the kids in the neighborhood and see them flourish. So we got a great system here, and I'm never going to quit on it. And I'll tell you, it's something that I'm very grateful for, so thank you. Okay, so I'm here tonight, a little under the weather, but to give the reports for both Measure M and Measure S. We had something interesting happen because obviously Measure M, Measure S dollars are starting to wind down, and obviously the Measure M dollars are the current one. So instead of having 2 committees overseeing 2 different measures, we combined. And there's a little bit of confusion with the board members and what they felt, what they were comfortable with. There was a lot of back and forth. We did spend actually quite a bit of time discussing this at our meetings, and it was a little bit more than I was hoping to spend on it, but it was something I think we needed to do. So Jim Marsh was here earlier. He had to call it a night, and and a few of my other board members clearly couldn't make it here tonight, but it's something that we're doing, and I think it's important what we're doing. And let me just get that report real quick. And I'll keep it kind of short because it's something that it's pretty straightforward. So obviously the Measure S report, it's pretty straightforward. You know, we're tasked with doing a very specific thing, which is obviously overseeing the dollars spent per the ballot language on the facilities spending. And it's pretty straightforward. You know, a lot of times people will ask us, are we in charge of deciding how the money is spent? No, it's clear we're not. That's your job. We're really there to make sure that we follow that ballot language. And when we do that, I think we sometimes, especially new board members, committee members, will lose sight of that, and we'll have to kind of reel them back in to let them know what we're here for. So, and we go off the auditor's report, and there have been times where we've actually asked the auditor to come back with some corrections, and that does add to the amount of meetings we have per year. We typically have between 3 and 5. But you know, that being said, with some change in leadership with Superintendent McFetridge and obviously Jesus coming on board, that we have a little bit of work to catch up with and get up to speed. You know, a lot of this was you know, handled a lot by Jane Euster and by Crystal. So making that change has been a little bit of a speed bump for us, but the biggest speed bump is combining these two committees. So wanted to give you a little bit of basic oversight. I think you already know, since you appoint us to this, what it does, you know, what we do. But the current board is myself, Zach Bennington, Diane Broslin, Charmaine Donegan, A.B. Minez, who's my co-chair, or my vice chair, Lenny Lakakos, Jim Marsh was here earlier tonight, Naomi Patridge, and Lisa Zanette. So we're going to continue on as a group to oversee this, and I think we got a solid group of people to move forward. A couple things I wanted to point out. Since most of the dollars are becoming spent on the Measure S, we're focusing obviously on Measure M now. And you know, I didn't find anything that was out of the ordinary. We did find some mistakes on the audit. We asked the auditor to come back and fix them, which he did. It was the first time in my, I was like 10 years, but probably 8 years of bond oversight committee work that we've actually voted by email, because the changes were important to make, and we all had to vote once those changes were made and kind of represented to us. The two, or the one I know that was, he didn't vote for it, was Jim Marsh, and that's because he was out with an ankle injury, and he wasn't able to attend the meetings, so therefore he didn't feel comfortable, I think, voting on something he wasn't up to speed on. So I totally understand that. But other than that, if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes?
I do. So Measure S was an 81 million. Okay.
Yep.
And if I'm correct, it looks like it's been, so 60 million have been spent, 60,466 with 490 roughly. So I guess there's still 21 million not sold yet.
Correct.
Correct, right?
Currently, correct.
Currently. And then for a Measure M, it's 99 million.
Total, correct.
Total. So based on expenditures, there's still about 64 million not sold yet.
That's correct. That's approximate, correct?
Approximate, okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if I was reading them right. Okay.
Yep. And that number is important to us, obviously, but the more important thing for the committee members to focus on is that audit, because the audit takes a slice of those expenditures and inspects them closely to figure out if we're accurate with our spending. It's per the ballot language, and it's legal. So for us, it's if we focus more on that and less on, I guess, the big numbers. I mean, it's important to us, but really that audit report every single year is very important to us, because that is very clear to us how the district is doing, spending those bond dollars. Yeah. So thank you for those questions.
And I have another comment. I mean, maybe it's more a question for superintendent. So, the master plan, it's, I guess, I was just wondering where we're at with that, and that's obviously gonna be important to you and your committee as you see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So as we discussed, the facilities master plan, one of the first things we did when we came into the district in July or August is we said, hey, the facilities master plan was done in 2012. All the construction costs are out of date. It needs to be updated. I'd heard a lot of interest that El Granada and Farallon View in particular were prioritized. I walked the sites and realized that those are the sites that I thought were the most in need and the most that had suffered from a lack of or a deferred maintenance. So those are our focus. You heard earlier in the evening people talking about us being at Farallon View and El Granada for faculty meetings and committee meetings. Quattrochi Kwok & Associates are the architects that are working on that update. They have now done those engagement, if you will, just to get some visioning, and they will be bringing presentations in the future to the board. And then from then, we would go to the process of figuring out how the board wants to proceed as far as bidding for architectural services, construction management services, general contracting and building, and whether or not that's going to be design build or lease back. And hopefully we would have facilities at El Granada and Farallon View that are as beautiful as the new hatch that's emerging. And so that's the next step in that.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, that's probably one of the bigger questions that we get asked quite often in the meetings, especially with the newer committee members, is why haven't we spent dollars at, El Granada or Farallon View? And for me, it's a very simple question, even though it's not part of our purview, right? We're not responsible for making those decisions. You all are in charge of that. And obviously coming up with these facilities master plans, that's where we get that information and make those decisions. But it's always a hot topic, and it's always, it can be juicy at times. I'll use that to describe it. And it's always easy to come away from that and let people know that's not our job to talk about it, but we understand what the concern is, and we understand why people are wondering why it's taking so long. There's a little bit of a silver lining in this whole thing, in that when we did that facilities master plan 7+ years ago, some of those things aren't as important as they are today. And having the chance to kind of relook at that is smart, and I think it's advantageous for our school district to do that. So as much as we want everybody to be finished like yesterday, it's smart because we have to look at it kind of from a big picture standpoint and figure out what makes the most sense. So it's hard to tell people that are concerned about El Granada or Farallon View, that they're next, and they're only going to feel it obviously until we get there. But looking at Hatch, it's beautiful, and I'm super excited, being a product of that school and seeing my kids. I got one in there now, and one will be in there in the next couple of years, and one's graduated from it. Pretty lucky. So to see that kindergarten area grow and see the walls going up, that will be one of our next field trips. As a committee, they want to go see the school and walk around. And I've made sure to tell them, don't ask questions or tell people how to do things. We're just there to look at things and not question why are they putting cement there and why that beam's over there, but rather to look and have an idea of what's going on so they can report back to their community. So it's tough, but it's the right thing to do. So any other questions for me?
Just real quick, I wanted to say thank you, Mike, for your years of service on these committees, on the parcel tax, as well as your support for bond and parcel tax measures over the years. So couldn't have done it without you. So thank you so much.
I want to let you know there was a commitment I made, and some of you were with me, but I said when I went to go speak at some of these more difficult groups to get support for this, was that not only am I going to put my money where my mouth is, or my mouth where my money is, but I'm going to volunteer to make sure we spend this money properly, because it's the right thing to do, and it's why I'm here, and it's why I could have easily stayed home feeling a little under the weather, but it was very important for me to be here tonight because it's something I committed to do. So thank you. I appreciate it. Yes.
And I also want to thank you, because I see you in like even the Halloween parades and you're the DJ, and so, and like a side note, I just noticed your two mugs.
Yeah, one works and one sometimes. Yeah.
Your son used to be in my daughter's TK class.
Awesome.
And it was really cool because he had this tiny little hand and this giant watch. And he.
That's
and,
my son.
And I said, that's so cool. He's like, yeah. He's like, this is a tracking, what did he say? No,
Tracking device.
A tracking device. And he opens it up and he says, I said, oh, how cool. And he goes, this one calls my mom, this one calls my dad, and this one calls the police. Do you want to see? And I said, no. I was like, no, it's cool, Nico, it's cool. And he, super, just super cute, super sociable. I've always enjoyed Nico and when he was in my daughter's class.
Awesome.
But I was like, I wonder what, and then knowing you were with technology makes sense, right? I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But going back to this, sorry, I had to say that to you. Is there a reason why we spend, well, it makes sense, I mean, now that we have both, why we spend, why we spend from one and the other?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. That's a question I've asked, but there's reasons for it.
Okay.
And really, your superintendent, as well as bond counsel, make those decisions based on financials. What makes the most sense? How many dollars you need to, or how many bonds you need to sell for a certain block of dollars. So it depends, So I can't answer that because I'm not part of those decisions. But there are reasons for it, and I've been told several times what they are, and I would love to get more involved, but then I would probably be doing your job. Yeah. Absolutely. Any questions for me?
Mike, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Can you do the next one too? We just have to do 2 motions.
And a motion to accept the address report as well? So moved. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, this is the last item. Well, you have to read the future board agenda items, I suppose, but as we discussed earlier, there is and as anybody who read the Half Moon Bay Review knows, we have a proposal for the installation of Allerton Ascent control systems at Cunha Intermediate School for the HVAC problems we've experienced there. Again, if anybody read the Half Moon Bay Review, you know that we went through troubleshooting. We had long issues with this. And January 23rd, I believe we got a proposal. As Mike discussed, we had to go to legal to make sure that it was first a bond expense, but we also had to go to legal to make sure that we could use a sole source, and you'll see a resolution in there. This is Allerton. This is the same as the rest of the school. That was an outdated legacy system. Had nothing to do with the reconstruction of the building. It was a legacy system. It failed. It stopped speaking. The Allerton system stopped speaking to the Honeywell system. And as soon as you approve this contract, assuming you will approve it, then the work can begin. And I think they're even talking about beginning tomorrow. Again, I have extended my apologies to Shana McCartney and a couple other staff members that have reached out to me about that issue. I wish things were different. I wish we had been able to respond earlier, and that's on us, and I think there was a lesson learned. And again, I apologize for that, but I think this will be one step to make it right.
Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. A second? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. And now, future board agenda items. Upcoming items include presentation of summer school preview, presentation of visual and performing arts current status, presentation and approval of second interim report, approval of Cabrillo Unified School District Governing Board policy update and adopt the proposed revisions as recommended by the California School Boards Association. Future events, March 3rd, Big Lift Collaborative Meeting, District Board Boardroom, 3 p.m. on the 3rd. February 17th through 21, President's Week, no school. February 27, Half Moon Bay Chamber of Commerce Teacher Supply Party, Mavericks Event Center at 4 p.m. March 3rd, Chamber Education Committee Meeting, District Office Boardroom, 4 p.m. March 6th, DLAC Meeting, Fairlawn View, 6:30 p.m. March 7, Black and Orange Ball, Oceana Spa and Hotel, 6:30 p.m. March 9 through 13, Parent-Teacher Conferences at all elementary sites, minimum days for students. March 12, Regular Governing Board Meeting, District Office Boardroom at 7 p.m. With that, we will,
You have a motion to adjourn?
do we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye.